And we're live.
Yay! Welcome to Captain Reboot. My name is Kasey, and I left my audio on, so I got a weird echo. Uh, we are doing Tyranny of Dragons, and I have a group of 8 amazing players with me tonight, who have done a really big laundry list of amazing things, so we're not going to get the full recap. That's a little too long. I'm going to force them to do that for me in like a session or two. But for right now, we'll just focus on the things they did in the last couple of hours, which was solve the riddles of Zonthal's Tower, discovering a false blue dragon mask. But they did defeat a blue dragon that has been hounding them since the very beginning of their adventures, as well as 3 dark dragon brothers, a black, a shadow, and a Draco Lich, all at the same time defending the town surrounding Zonthal's Tower. The thankful townsfolk, being apprentices and magic users, have offered to assist the party by combining the remains of the 3 of the Dark Trio into a weapon. They're fairly confident that they can do it. This hasn't really been done before, and that's kind of got them excited about the prospect. They've also offered to convert the corpse of the blue dragon, but that's a little kind of it's been done. They're just like, yeah, kind of tell us what you want, and we'll take care of it for you. Now, these items they believe can be ready in time for your confrontation with the cultists. So, where we left off was the party in discussion about what was to be done with the loot from this scenario. And right now, the loot of choice, I gave them a list of, but the ones I kind of would like to know what they're doing with is the Zonthal's Tower key, which is a white hourglass that allows you to um, uh, commune with the tower and gain ownership of it. And then the blue dragon, and then the trio of dark dragon corpses. So I'll turn it over to the party. What are you all thinking?
My mom and grandma could totally use this place as a retirement place. It would be a beautiful Christmas gift.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone had issues with that last time.
I think Chloe wouldn't have any issues with it. I think Chloe would just want to say out loud, like, do we? Because we know that the mask is a fake or a false, right?
Yes, the mask was proven to be false. It does still have some enchantments to it, and it does have a glamour upon it to make it look more important or more magical than it really is, but it does still have some effects.
I think Chloe would just be like, just not that I think there's a real mask in there somewhere hidden. I don't think the guy was that clever, but if they happen to come across it, like dibs for us. Just saying.
All right, so it sounds like Ruqiyo will be taking possession of the hourglass, if I've heard the voices correctly. What about the dragon's remains?
Nom 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 nom.
I believe that was indeed what was decided for.
That was the consensus.
I think
Okay.
just because it boiled down to, well, that'll be the most interesting.
Fair enough. So Joey has been lugging around since early on a weapon born of a half dragon's wings turned into an animate weapon, and it does seem rather eager to acquire more mass. It doesn't grow teeth and eat and digest so much as it just sort of works its way through, bit by bit, wearing away at the blue dragon for as long as you let it. Over time, it will consume the entire corpse up to the very horn of the dragon itself.
Gross.
Nummy.
Joey will probably slice off some meat and eat with it while it's eating.
Sure.
This makes sense, you know.
Does
Bonding,
it go
right?
off and do this by itself, or does he have to like walk like up and down the
Is it on
length
a
of the
leash?
corpse?
Oh my god. Could well Dusk is gonna take some scales before the thing devours it all. Oh my goodness.
Sure. So Joey's weapon is basically made of the wings and not spine, but the splines, the spiky bits that were torn off of a half dragon, and it has been able to manipulate itself into a number of ways. In this case, it just sort of extends its wings and sort of envelops a piece of the dragon at a time, and then by the time it's done closing, it just sort of opens. Joey puts it down at is where it starts, but when it's done, it's all gone. In the meantime, you can of course acquire a few scales, a few trophy pieces from it, and have yourself a little dragon steak. It is a blue dragon, so it's got that sort of like chewing on a gum wrapper. If you've got fillings, that little like zingy sort of thing that goes on in your mouth. It's not entirely unpleasant, but I don't know that many cooks get practice with blue dragon meat, so the preparation is a little slipshod. Are you entrusting the preparation of the meat to anyone in particular, or are you just going? What's the word for raw meat?
Tartar.
Tartar. Thank you.
Tartar. No, this is definitely an invite Mord over thing. Be like, all right, dude.
Oh, okay.
Like, this is your chance. This is it. This is probably the once in a lifetime that you'll get to work with fresh blue dragon meat. So, like, let's do it.
All right.
You are aware
well.
that you are eating a person, right?
Thank you. Yes, I felt that needed to be pointed out.
Just saying.
Like,
This is kind of like cannibalism if cannibalism had a slightly broader, yeah.
It is the consumption of a sapient being.
It's not sentient anymore.
That's true.
It tried to eat us first, alive, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe feels
And-
no sadness about this.
And dragons have
Okay.
eaten lots of people.
That's fair. Just making sure you're aware.
So more just to throw dice behind our decisions. Could I get a cooking utensil experiment with you?
Sure.
Having
but first,
experience with Mord cooking things, Valandra will cast guidance.
Mord was also going to ask for an assistant.
Okay. Assistant.
She'll help with that too.
Okay.
Okay.
That is fine. Hold on here. Oh, right. It actually shows up on that.
We were previously heroes to the whole town, now we're creeps.
Mm.
Oh, come on. A few steaks won't hurt.
Some of us,
Okay.
some of us are creeps.
What
Only
what
some.
attribute do we think this is?
I'm willing to hear any
Dexterity.
argument you're willing to come up with.
Strength to be able to actually chop through the.
I mean, if we're doing strength, then I can go into a rage and rage cook.
Oh no. I feel like that is the wrong decision. You're gonna end up with a poison sack in the wrong part of the dish.
Do you have like a Swiss Army knife of
There's
kitchen
no
knives
poison
that you have to go
that's the
through?
blue dragon.
I mean, if
so
you're gonna go
it's on the
strength,
knife
you gotta rocky it up. You're gonna hang this. You gotta hang the haunch. You gotta
Yeah,
get
we
in
gotta
there,
tenderize it, you know.
tenderize it a little bit. Uppercut, jab, jab.
So I haven't heard anything against strength.
You know, you have a good argument.
It's all in the preparation of the meat. I am raging.
Mm-hmm.
This is a strength ability check, so this is at advantage. But I had help. I'm raging for the flavor anyway, literally. Okay.
Raging for flavor.
No, that was not advantage.
Did it taste so
That's
angry?
odd. I rolled it at advantage, but maybe because I put it on afterwards. Oh well, I'll just
yeah.
roll another one, not at advantage.
Still
and just
pretty
keep it
good.
at normal, and Did you add the bless, Thomas, to that?
I'm about to, yeah, the guidance.
Okay. Guidance, right.
So I think what's kind of happening here is Mord's worked
Oh, there we
out
go.
that dragon meat needs a very careful preparation. Very indirect heat, more of a smoking effect. I think he and Valandra end up on the roof, standing next to the chimney, kind of turning it on a little spit over the smoke coming out of the chimney, getting that lightning-y flavor. And we'll kind of leave it there. But yes, steaks are prepared with a nice smoky, lightning flavor, and away you go. In the meantime, Joey's weapon has picked up a new trick.
Is
I have sent that trick to him. He can announce it if and when he so chooses. And that leaves us with the trio of dark dragons. The townsfolk are very interested in turning that into a weapon of some sort, but they would need to know what sort of weapon you all would like. Or you could argue it for something else, but they're very much into the we're going to mash it together and see what happens.
So make it a weapon for Mord, right?
I believe that was the plan.
And in that case,
Preferably of the dragon-killing sort.
Weird.
It's really great at killing kobolds. Have fun.
Kobold Slayer. What shape shall the weapon be made into? Warhammer, quarterstaff, short sword, long sword, etc.
I was thinking glaive.
Glaive. You got it. After a time, they return to you. They present you with what is more or less a glaive-shaped weapon. It will do damage and act as a glaive. They give you the instructions for it. The glaive can be made to do any one of 3 damage types. It can do, if you strike a dragon with it, it does all 3. 1d6, necrotic, acid, and force. Non-dragons, it will do just 1d6 of your choice.
Okay. I think that's
Cool.
pretty flippin' cool.
And the first time you hit something with it, it's going to look probably a little more unfinished than you might expect, as energy just comes lashing out all over the place from it. But we'll figure out that when it
that's
happens.
fine. Man, the Monster Hunter aesthetic is really up my alley. So
Yes. And at this point, that equips 2 of the party with Monster Hunter-esque weapons. Joey sporting the primarily blue, Mord sporting the primarily black and shadowy. Now, from here, the party is being summoned to join the Council of Waterdeep, as well as to confer with a council of dragons who have agreed to meet with them on a riverboat heading out from the city of Yatar. The riverboat will take about 5 days to travel from Yatar to Waterdeep, and the councils both have agreed to meet with each other for the length of the voyage, the party being invited to act as both witnesses and go-betweens and encouragement on both sides. They feel that the first-person narratives will help encourage the dragons to assist. Is there anything that the party would like to do before we jump over to that next step?
Quick question about
Sure.
the glaive. Any bonus to hit on it?
It is no bonus to hit. It is a magical weapon, but it only does its bonus damage.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yep. There is room for further improvement upon it, but this was on the hasty.
Of course.
All right. So we're going to do wiggly lines, and we're going to end up over here. The city of Yotar is a fairly upbeat one at the moment. They are doing good business. War is good for profiteers. And one such profiteer is Casper Dryland. He is making obvious moves that he wishes to be the next water baron of Yotar when Nestra retires / dies some years in the future. The
With a
young
name
lord.
like that.
What's that?
With a name like that.
Yeah. Casper has spent quite a lot of money recently outfitting a riverboat with the finest of ornamentation, the heaviest of magical protections. Now, this was being done to act as a pleasure boat / floating gambling hall for the upper tier of Yotar society. However, it also conveniently made a very good meeting place for the councils. It is proof against almost all divination. It is crewed by a number of clay golems, and it is mobile, so it would be hard to find, hard to target, hard to assault. On top of that, there will be 5 or more ancient metallic dragons on board in human or demi-human guise, as well as yourselves, the Council of Waterdeep, and a few select others. None seem to be planning on bringing guards, though they are very capable people in general. So I'll be asking the party what they'd like to look like as they show up, or any questions that they may have. The boat is temporarily outfitted with a extra dimensional space, a door that opens into a separate plane, which has been loaded full of carts and war supplies, and is being transported in the hold of this pleasure boat down to, in the lower decks of this pleasure boat, down to Waterdeep, where it will be unloaded for the war effort. In the meantime, however, there will be conversations, there will be gambling, there will be impressing people with your panache, and so on. Do we have volunteers as to who would like to say what they look like as they're getting ready to board this boat, or should I go down the list as I see fit?
Oh, there's a good one, but I just don't know if that should be first or last.
Okay. So let's do this the dice friendly way. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the turn order. I'm gonna clear out the old one, and I'm gonna ask you all to go ahead and click yourselves and add initiative.
Oh God. Of all the times.
Yeah.
Does Mord still have advantage on initiative checks in this situation?
I don't think you need it.
I don't have a choice, I guess,
think this
because
is
it's
the
still gonna
highest
roll.
I've ever rolled initiative in this game.
Yep.
It's like everyone's really trying to go first on this.
Yeah, I'll just crowd in the gangplank. Let's see here.
I'm trying to find Dusk's token. Where?
Oh, wait, where's Dusk's token?
Doesn't
Dusk.
seem to be there.
I'm sorry, that was me. How did I lose your token? There's a Dusk token.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now I can do the thing.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Whoa. Okay. So these are
This is some
not
wild
the normal
initiative.
initiative order. But for reasons unknown, Mord is the first to come into sight, coming onto the gangway, heading up towards the riverboat. Mord, you can see ahead of you the boat is 3 tall tiers, as well as the ballast below. The first row has oars sticking out of it. It is a rowing vessel. The second seems to be the main floor where most of the entertainments and conversation. And then the top floor is a number of small rooms, which are going to be used for sleeping in. They're obviously very cramped quarters, but they are serviceable.
Okay, well, Mord, I wouldn't say strides. His normal gait isn't really happening here because he has not ever been to a function like this in the last, it's probably been like 80 years. So he has, when he joined the Lord's Alliance, he got a formal military garb, and that was the only thing that he could think of to wear to this occasion. So he has a formal military garb, but it was made quite a while ago, never used, but too small for him by like half a size or so. So he's just kind of not quite pink when walking, but you kind of get that impression that he's just very uncomfortable in this, fully buttoned up,
So
decent looking.
you're like stuffed
Yeah.
into a cadet's uniform that's 80 years out of date. Is that what I'm looking up?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Okay.
about what you're looking at.
Yeah. The shoulder spikes aren't in this year, but that's fine. I'm sorry, I don't quite remember the Avatar quote, but I believe it was shoulder spikes. So Mord, as you come along, I think Valandra may be following. Valandra, what are you attired in? Oh, I'm sorry, Mord. Any weapons of note on you at this point?
Weapons of note. I mean, maybe.
Like a dagger at your hip is just standard. That's just everybody's got.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of what would be appropriate and what would Mord think was appropriate. I think he has his hammer this time around.
Okay.
Maybe his shield. I don't think that he would bring this nasty ass looking glaive onto this boat, but
I mean, it
yeah.
might.
You know what? No, we'll bring
it is down in the hold. It is accessible to you if the fights start. So it's just a matter of whether you're lugging it about.
I think he'll lug the glaive about as like
he
some
will?
form of comfort, I guess.
Okay.
Comfort glaive.
Comfort glaive. Everybody needs one. Valandra, following
Emotional
that.
support glaive.
I mean, it might be a pretty good reminder that we just killed 3 or 4 chromatic dragons. Like,
yeah.
At one time, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Valandra will and essentially is trying to in wearing the full plate is not trying to intimidate anyone, but is trying to counteract what she assumes is probably the tendency to not listen to a 15-year-old girl on matters of war. So she's trying to just project an aura of readiness and competence
Sounds good.
with that.
All right. Weapons of note?
I think she probably has her mace.
Okay. Talace, what are you bringing to the party?
Valandra has one last thing to tell you about what she looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Oh, okay. And then magically applied with prestidigitation, so it doesn't
And
come
some
off.
actual gems.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, please.
She has some face paint, I guess. So in a kind of, what is that, like a butterfly wing around the eye, kind of?
That's a good way to describe it, I think. And then there's
half butterfly, half flower petals.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
like wings coming off that are
That.
actually little wings.
Oh, we got an image here. What's going on here? Oh, that is pretty cool. Okay, so you bedazzled Valandra.
I did.
That is a pretty cool effect.
There was face painting going on, and Valandra was a little sad she couldn't join in because it would immediately run off, and then they were just like magic. So
So yes, so Valandra is a little mismatchy maybe because I think that is dwarven forged full plate mithril if I'm not mistaken. So that is a intimidating bulk of armor for all of its lightness. And then butterfly and flower. To Lace though, what are you up to?
So so the team convinced Talace to put her mask away.
Okay.
So she will not be attending in dragon style regalia, much to her sadness. But since all the girls were trying to have some fun and get done up, she went a little bit on the fun side. If you want to take a look at this link,
Okay.
it's basically like blue scale paint. Very pretty.
I gotcha. Okay.
ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she's wearing her standard armor, but she's cleaned it up very nicely, so it has a nice look to it. Because this was show armor from the beginning, so
Mhm.
she's wearing her usual regalia, but she's also put some gemstones in her hair and done it like half up, so that she looks a little fancy and sparkly.
Sounds good. And weapons of note.
She always has. She's got her cittern with her, and her hanbo is tucked away.
Sounds good. And then that'll bring us to the first of our kittens. Dawn, what are you? I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to inflict on you the electrolysis that I joked about. So, what are you looking like?
He does have that ring, so his even if you did inflict the electrolysis, some of that would be coming back.
Mhm.
But he's dressed in very fancy regalia, with the like collar buttoned all the way to the top with the big ruffled front and coat in lacy sleeves, very fancy goth looking. And if possible to find, maybe like raven cufflinks, and Edgar sitting on his shoulder, who has preened all nicely and his feathers are all shimmery, and he picked up a just like a fancy walking cane.
Mhm.
Just trying to look not like the bumpkin he was as a child, and like just trying to look like a respectable, intelligent person, even if it doesn't fit the narrative of what a tabaxi is quote unquote supposed to be like.
No problem. And any weapons of note upon you?
No.
Okay. Ruqiyo, this may be a little more like your crowd. How have you dappered up for the evening or not?
Well, with the girls getting all pretty, I really couldn't resist and
Mhm.
asked to join in as well. So Talace has done her magic with Ruqiyo as well. Files as shop file. We'll find out. Out with, if you look underneath, it's pretty legit, nice boots, polished and shined, and, some pants and an undershirt that granted is unbuttoned a little more than you'd expect and
Mhm.
shows a bit more like clavicle than you would expect.
Okay.
But untied on. it had to be done for art's sake, because Therese' art extended, around the eyes and then also along clavicle, and so his red vest and red jewels are complementary. And then just because that was just it needed a little bit more, he also has like a sash that comes down from his shoulder and around,
Okay.
almost like a sari, but not quite that much.
Got it. All
He's
right.
fabulous.
It does sound like a fabulous outfit. Any weapons of note on
Distraction.
you? Oh, sorry, Ruqiyo, any weapons?
Oh, my hands. I suppose
yeah.
like there's probably a dagger in his belt, but like
Okay.
more for like cutting dragon meat if need be or something. I don't know. Not like real dragon meat, but like steak.
Yeah, like steak. So
Well,
Yay!
yeah, Kuhloe is kind of like schlepping behind people, kind of tugging at herself a little bit. She has her armor on. She has her weapons. She has everything she usually has: the sword, the long sword, the shield, which I guess are pretty plain, given that she lost all of her like personalized stuff. But she has polished up her armor. It's bright kind of silver, and she's wearing like a white cloak. Kind of on the back, got a link for kind of how I imagine it looking, minus the helm. And then she's kind of like scratching at her neck and kind of pulling on her hair, which is kind of like all pulled up a little higher than usual instead of the ponytail. And she's kind of messing with her face, like rubbing her eye a little bit because Therese has done a thing to her face.
done a thing to her face.
I told you didn't have to put the paint on so thick. I mean, it's itching me. I think I got hives from this. I don't know what's going on.
You do not have
It's
hives.
hot.
It's
Is
not
it
all
supposed to be
thick.
hot?
It's like basically airbrushed. You look gorgeous. Stop touching it.
It looks like I got flowers growing out of my eyeballs. It doesn't make any sense. But
You look beautiful. Be quiet.
she's trying to like, keep it on because that was the agreement, but she feels quite silly and looks a little less than confident like she normally does.
This was the bargain for Therese putting the mask away, was that she got to doll up Chloe.
I see. Much fully geared. Perhaps alongside, perhaps trailing behind. Joey? Were you involved in this face painting escapade?
None of that nonsense for Joey. I mean, it had the time to field maintain his armor on the way over here, so it's standard and normal and clean. And probably as we're walking, I imagine Chloe's right in front, and he keeps stepping on the cloak that Chloe's wearing. Like, come on, nerd's
Stop
wearing
it.
the
It's
cloak.
white and it's clean, you fucking oaf.
I'll clean it afterwards each time, just waiting for that jerk back. But I mean, at most, Chloe or Joey would be wearing maybe a covering tabard, because that armor is really black, so maybe something with some whites and some purples on it. But other than that, he would just be standard, cleaned up, not bleeding everywhere Joey.
Sounds good. Weapons of note?
So, I mean, everybody that knows Joey pretty much knows what the turkey leg is. So, for the sake of that, he will turn said weapon into its 16-pound mass. Has it gotten physically any bigger since it ate the thing?
It has not gotten physically any bigger since it ate. However, you can it almost vibrates constantly. Like it is humming with electricity when you touch it, and it is definitely not heavier. I want to say stiffer / denser. If you can think of like before it was a little more flexy. Now it's a little more jointed parts moving. Like the scales have hardened and they still move well. They still flow together. But before it was like a Before it was a young dragon, now it's an old dragon kind of thing.
Got it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just bringing it along as the turkey leg, but
You got it. So turkey leg at the side, and then Dusk, uncharacteristically last in the party list. Dusk, what are you looking like?
She's like looking her usual fluffy pastel calico self, but she has decided to don a not fluffy, like a fancy embroidered cloak, because cloaks are one of the only things she can wear that doesn't like smoosh down all her fur awkwardly. And she's wearing that nice little necklace of tumbled stones that Harry made for her, along with a few other little jewelry trinkets around her wrists and on her ears, because she just wants to look shiny and fancy.
Sounds good. So as you all roll up onto the riverboat.
Just one thing. As we were all heading out to head here, Dawn was going to cast water breathing on everyone just in case.
Sure, absolutely. You can all now breathe water. Though around here it doesn't look like you would need it, because the water in this particular area is only a few feet deep. Out towards the middle of the river, maybe a little more important. But as you are stepping onto the riverboat, you are greeted by Caspier Dryland. He introduces himself. Welcome to my boat. I'm so glad I could host. And he looks a little worse for wear at the moment. He's a nobleman, looks very comfortable speaking to you. You suspect he would be comfortable speaking to the other lords that arrived, but he is just out of his depth with the dragons. And as you step in, you can see the distinct difference between them. Some of the dragons have adopted human form. Others have adopted a dragonborn or half-dragon styling. But the distance between the wealth that the human races or humanoid races display and the casual wealth that the dragons have about them is just night and day. The rings and the jewels and some of the items that you wear, certainly demonstrations of wealth in human society, but the just casual gems that are just hanging, on a dangly little bit on the dragon's attire, worth kingdoms, and they seem unconcerned with it. You recognize several of the folks about. Lord Dagult Ember, who you initially met on the council. He's been replaced by Lady Laryl Silverhand. She's the current Open Lord of Waterdeep and pretty much in charge of the council. King Melindrak of the Elves, and the Ambassador of the Dwarves. Onthar and Leosin of the Order of the Gauntlet and the Harpers, respectively. Rhea Nightshade, who some of you may have met with briefly, of the air quotes legitimate merchants, less air quotes Zentarum. And then Delin Winterhound of the Emerald Enclave. You're all invited onto the boat. You have the opportunity to chat and move about, and everyone seems more or less content with today just being introductions, saying hello, meeting everyone, mingling, and dinner. Go ahead.
Just before we get onto the boat, Valandra will cast Enhance Ability Eagle's Splendor.
Okay.
On Mord, Ruqiyo, Joey, Kuhloe, and Talace. So
okay.
Advantage on charisma checks.
Yeah.
And does anyone not speak Draconic?
Mord does not.
Yeah, I don't.
Draconic.
Dusk also does not.
She will cast Tongues on the three of you.
Wait. Does
Okay.
sheet list languages?
Cool.
Lower left corner, I think.
Crap. I also do not speak it.
Okay. 4th level spell for Ruqiyo.
Okay.
Also,
So
guys, we better not get into a fight.
In that mind, we're gonna pop True Seeing before we get on the boat too,
Okay.
just so that we can keep an eye out.
Do me a favor, bring up True Seeing real quick.
At least I think I remember how that works. Let's.
I got it.
Oh, I could have just clicked on my spell.
Yes.
You did. Yep.
Hey,
Maybe twice.
Valandra, why don't you
Yeah.
let Talace cast tongues on Ruqiyo instead?
Okay.
Save your 4th level. I've got spells aplenty.
I forgot you had that.
I'm willing to cast it on myself, but would anyone prefer to have it instead?
I already speak it.
No, I'm sorry, I meant True Seeing. In case there's anything hidden, skulking.
I have a very good perception.
I mean,
I will trade
good.
things.
that's
Okay.
good, like
Spells.
you.
So
You just like
Pass
to
it
be
on.
an alert kitty.
so who is getting the true sight? True sight. I missed it. Ruqiyo
Do you guys
and
want to?
I think
Willing
I'm
creature I touch. So just one. But
I think I'm the least perceptive person in the group.
I think the two of you should rock, paper, scissors. Was it Valandra and I didn't hear who spoke. Was it Dawn or Dusk?
It was me. Dusk.
Okay. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
I don't know. You're the one casting the spell.
Well, fine. You're sitting next to me. I'll touch you in the head.
Touch you in the head.
sounds good. So as you board and you start getting introduced to people, you start doing a little bit of mingling, catching up. Onther comes over, gives everybody a big hug, gives Valandra the pick up and shake kind of hug. Leo's in a little more restrained, but stays neutral.
Valandra will return it by once he sets her down, she'll pick him up and shake him.
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as he's up in the air, he's like, oh, yeah! And he's, gives you a hug, like kind of like sorting out how to hug you with your hair going like up in the air at him, and he's like, bleh, spits out a little bit of extra hair. And Leo's comes in, oh, Thar, stop that. Bring me company. Most Onther is armored. He is wearing his full suit and such, though most of the others seem to be in more formal, less combative attire, showing off their wealth more than their military prowess. Those of you with true sight, once you're in the doorway, you take a look around. You can see the gambling tables that are laid out, that the money has been spread about. You get your first look at one of the dragons, and it is eye-popping. These are ancient metallic dragons. The forms that they are crammed to are bursting to the seams with power, and you get the full eyeful. Their polymorph does not fool you in the slightest. There's a little bit of a distortion because there's that much mass crammed into that little space. But they are very scary critters.
Would that show up? Well, it wouldn't be. It's obviously not true seeing, but would detect magic pick up on that, or is that just because it's a dragon thing?
Well, this is effectively a polymorph spell, so you can definitely tell that there are magics at work here. The boat itself radiates magic heavily, and you recognize several of the wards and set, the private sanctum style, the divination blocking spells, and in fact, while you can see the magic of the boat, you cannot see inside the boat with your detect magic until you step into it. Once you've stepped into it, then it starts working on the inside as well. So it is a very well protected boat. The theme seems to be the golden goose. You can see a very large goose made of gold set up, and normally there would be money changers who would have taken your money at the dock and handed you gambling tokens. They don't normally bring actual money on the boat, using instead gambling chips. But an exception has been made for the nobility and the dragons, and actual coin is being used at the table and passing around. The dragons seem a bit amused at the amounts being used. They are sort of pulling out bags of gems and then tucking that away, and instead pulling out golds and platinums and such. The 5 council members of the Dragon Council are introduced to you. Protanther is introduced, and those of you with true sight can see a massive gold dragon, male, and he looks to be the leader, or at least the speaker for the council. Eleuthera is introduced, a male brass dragon. Ali is introduced, and she is a female silver dragon. During the introductions, Casper tries her full name once, and she just stops him about halfway through and says just Ali. Nimur, a male bronze dragon, and then Taz, a female copper dragon. Again, he tries the name, and they just stop him and carry on. Those of you who speak Draconic, or those of you who have tongues, can manage the names a little more gracefully. The dragons outline briefly, Protanther doing the speaking. We appreciate everything that you've done and that you've alerted us to the situation. It's our intent to make a strike upon this cult, likely as soon as we're clear of this council. We don't expect that we will need your help, but we've come to talk. The council members, Anthar and Lariel, are encouraging cooperation with the dragons, combined forces, tactics, and such. And they look to you for some insight on the scope of the threat, and sort of throw your weight behind their words. Would anyone like to speak to any members of either council, individually or as a group, on this first day of the journey?
Oh, so quiet. Is I guess this first day, like, I don't know that much business is gonna get done unless someone needed to like lay down like clarification. But are the dragons kind of sticking to like a group, or are people throughout the boat mingling well?
That's an excellent question. How about an insight check to discover it?
Oh, I'm not terrible at that.
So the dragons are making an effort to mingle and speak. However, there are 2 people who the dragons are staying away from. The elven representative, King Melandrak, is being avoided by all the dragons. There's bad blood between elves and dragons. Everyone knows that, but not everyone remembers why. Along with that, several of the dragons don't seem to like the dwarven representative. Specifically, Taz seems to be avoiding the dwarves, and in fact Mord as well.
Which one is which? Can you just jot that out?
They're just images.
Okay.
They're not isolated to a particular one.
Just wondering, like, who's in human form and who's in dragonborn form, that sort of thing.
Oh, sure. The Protanther, and excuse me. Protanther is in human form. Eleuthera is in dragonborn form. And the other three are of a half-dragon styling. They are more or less dragons pressed down into humanoid shape.
We've seen that before.
Yes, you've seen that. You've seen that before, though. This is even maybe a little more wild looking, like it's almost a shrunk dragon standing upright.
That's super cool.
That's so cool.
I'm gonna make an effort not to fanboy as much as I can.
So
because we don't want this to get awkward. Though they do
That's
say dragon. Never mind.
Oh, go fanboy. It'll be okay.
So now, when you say fanboy, what does that mean?
We're in a closeted space with a lot of really pretty, powerful beings.
Mhm.
Like, I am gonna try very hard not to get drunk and tell someone how pretty they are. Like, we're gonna have a little bit higher game.
I'm almost certain that when I get drunk and try not to tell someone how pretty they are, that's code in my brain for make sure I say it in a suave way.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So that sounds to me like perhaps you're rolling a persuasion-y sort of check.
With advantage.
I do have advantage, don't I?
You
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, 2d. Oh, hey, wait. I have two very important d20s to roll
Also,
first.
Yes.
yes, roll those first. And you know what? Before Ruqiyo goes to talk to any of them, she'll give him a little pep talk, slap
Aren't
his
those the
ass,
ones you had
go
last
get him,
time?
Tiger, and get him his
I'm glad that we've gotten to that point.
Weren't we always at that point?
It didn't take long. That's true.
All right. So
All right, so we've got those for later.
Mhm.
Did you
Is
roll
there
those the same exact ones as last time?
That is.
Yes, actually, I think so.
Those are identical to your last portent.
All right, so we'll take the 14. That's a better one than it could otherwise have been.
You only get that inspiration for 10 minutes. Roll it anyway. The D10.
/ D10.
Oh my god. Well,
Hey, it got me to
15.
15. We're just gonna be friendly. Yeah.
Just gonna be friendly.
We're gonna be friendly and see where it goes, and if there's basically not repulsion, we'll see what goes in the evening.
You got it. So as you sort of come up and start your compliments, is there a particular one of the dragons that you wish to compliment? Gold, brass, silver, bronze, copper, male, female?
Well, generally we go for but I mean, why limit the party?
Are you just kind
already
of
forgotten
stumbling up to
names.
all 5 of them and just being
No.
like,
Could you
being like, you guys are all so pretty?
I
their
do
names
need to
down in
jot
the
down their
comments?
names.
Oh, I'm sorry. There is a handout you should see.
Oh, where?
I did not see.
Where?
We did not get a handout.
Meeting names reference.
At the top.
I hope.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. These are things I should have mentioned out loud. In my brain, I was saying it.
Wait, they can't pronounce Taz McKella?
He was a little flustered.
That's so easy.
Yes. Except when you're like looking at this young woman and knowing that she could literally bite your head off if you said her name wrong.
Oh, that's a good point.
There's an intimidation factor. Dragon fear is real. And
That
Caspier.
name sounds so familiar.
Who's that?
Tasmakella, that name sounds so familiar.
Well,
Oh my god, I know who this is! I know who this is!
Who's this? Am I knowing what you're knowing?
You know exactly what I know. It's her! It's her! Oh my god!
Is this in game?
Oh my god!
What
No.
is going on
This,
here?
this is out of character fangirling.
Yeah, is that oh my god!
I was looking at it too once, like she said the full name. I was looking at the full name. I'm like, no, really? Okay. Well then, onward.
I'm sorry, this is completely out of character fangirling. I can't believe that we're playing in a game with Tasmakella. This is amazing.
that is totally fine. And since there was that little outburst of don't I know you? How about a D20? Maybe you do know them in game.
Sure.
Ooh.
Do it.
I'll,
Roll well.
You know what? I'll luck it. Never mind. I do not. I do not.
No. Which is probably
No.
good though. Probably good though.
In a similar vein, do
Mhm.
I know what the relationship between Tasmakella and the dwarves are, or should I roll for that?
Go ahead and give me a history check.
Cool. +0. That should have gone through. Well, we'll see what happens here. I did click it, just so you know. So we're
It'll
just
get roll
yeah,
20's
we're
just building that anticipation. Just,
yep.
Come on. No, just not gonna.
All right, I'm gonna
Try
click it
just
again. Yep.
No. Yeah. No.
Oh, there we go.
There's one of them. So you're not sure what Tasmakella may hold against the dwarfs. However, you think that perhaps Ali actually Ataralik Canaros has a reason.
I see why she stopped him.
Yeah. Might have a reason to be a little grumpier with dwarves. You seem to recall several members of your family bearing the name Dragon Slayer from having slaughtered a silver dragon.
Oh.
Now, of course, they wouldn't say slaughter, they would say defeated. But as you're looking and speaking with a silver dragon, you're like, oh.
Silver dragons are like the goodest of good dragons. It's a slaughter.
And, as you're
Well,
holding a weapon made of baby dragon parts and have another one. But Ollie's not showing it. She's polite to you.
Okay.
So, introductions continue moving around. A little expression of appreciation happens. The dragons acknowledge. They seem to think that's a reasonable response to their presence. They don't, of course, they're not rude to you about it, but yeah, that's thank you. The brass dragon, Luthra, looks a little grumpy.
Like he needs a drink?
More that he's like, man, these mortals.
Slice will definitely approach him going, what? You look a little down, being her charming self, because you know what, dragons are her favorite thing, so whatever. Just because they're not blue doesn't mean they're not awesome.
Fair enough. So Luthra, begins speaking with you, and he's, well, I mean, games of chance are entertaining, but I've sort of studied them to death, and I've seen these sorts of situations over and over again in my travels. It's a little dull here, don't you think?
What's your idea of a good time? And she's not laying that on thick. She's genuinely asking.
He's and he sort of takes it at face value, and he's like, well, really, it's something new, something worth noting. This, I mean, councils. They've been called so many times. Fighting with Tiamat, we've been doing that since the days of our creation. There's nothing novel, nothing worth knowing here.
Would you rather she get loose and destroy everything you built? That seems a little strange.
Well, Tiamat is a goddess of dragons. Bahamut is a god of dragons. To see one released would likely call the other to our plane, so there is advantage to it, to the dragon kind.
But what
Your
about
god,
everybody else?
well, that's the argument, isn't it? And he's discussing this on a almost purely intellectual level, like there's no tragedy involved in the slaughter of potentially tens of thousands of sentient beings. That's sort of the question. Is there worth to your people enough to invest in caring for? I know Protanther there sees humans as flawed. We dragons are born good. It is in our nature, in our very existence, to do what is right.
Yeah, just because they're good doesn't mean they're good for sentient. They're good for on a cosmic.
I'm assuming you got that's a quiet conversation.
No, you can speak to it, and he maybe you remember how attentive dragons are and how hard it is to hide from them. So as you hear the and the discussion, come over. I'd be interested to hear your opinion. Maybe it's something I haven't heard before. So, on a cosmic scale, you say, indeed, we are good creatures. We do right by those that are good. You are not born with a inherent desire to do good or evil. You are chaotic. You are random. Now, some would say that that's in your favor, that some of you choose to do good, therefore it's a greater form of good than we have. Others would say that since you can do evil, you are evil.
Oh.
And some would say that you're simply not worth anything because you have no worth. You have no value on the scale until late in the game. So, what would you say?
I'd say it's honestly in the eye of the beholder. I mean, as a humanoid, a lot of our tasks are to learn to be better. And many don't figure that out and they become lost, evil even. I mean, grand thing about not being born one way is that there's always a chance to do better. We can always get better, but if we don't have the opportunity to do so, wouldn't you be robbing us of that and therefore doing evil to us?
Well, can you do evil to something that is not good? It's an interesting question.
Ooh.
Evil people do evil to each other all the time. And a good person can do an evil thing. It doesn't necessarily make them evil. And an evil person can do a good thing. It doesn't necessarily make them good. The intention within is what truly matters. I mean, you'll see kings justifying wars because they need more land for their crops. And you'll see a beggar stealing bread to feed her children.
those are things. So what you should say then, if I'm hearing you properly, is that we should judge humanity by their deeds, and at the moment, humanity seems hell-bent on releasing the God Queen of Evil.
Unfortunately, when you start I would point out that most groups cannot be lump sum judged. Like even rather homogenous, I guess morally speaking groups. But unfortunately humans have as you've mentioned, irritating ability slash what's the word? Tendency to not act cohesively, to be very individual.
And as you're
Because-
saying that, Protanther, the gold dragon, actually gives out a laugh. He's at least they're self-aware.
Guilty
And
as charged, gotta say.
and you can tell that a lot of the conversation has started to drop off in the room as the five gold dragons are at least the five dragons are at least keeping an ear on the conversation going on. Yes, an annoying habit. I can see that, and unfortunately, that's the bit of the argument that comes up amongst our kind often. Dragons, it's very clear. We are good, they are evil. We should fight them. Humanity, and of course, elves, dwarves, and so and the elves is like just pure acid, and so on. Since they've sprouted up, it's been nothing but trouble. They swing back and forth, causing all manner of destruction. Look what they've done to the place. Look what they've done to us. So,
I don't have the correct knowledge to speak to that. I want to ask, like, can I get an arcana or something to know what he's referring to? Because, like, whenever someone's like, look what they've done to us, and we're talking about, like, generations of stuff, I always want to be like, legit, totally legit.
That
but
one
have you, like...
That one might have Dawn's
what have you done?
ears perking. Dawn's studied some rather interesting magics over time. One that may have come across is the Draco Rage Mythal, a world encapsulating spell cast by ancient elves that drove dragons to such a rage that they would kill one another, even their own children, destroying their own kingdoms. And that was considered the end of the dragon's age. Dragons never really forgiven elves for that.
Fair.
Okay.
So Dawn would...
the equivalent of neurotoxin release. Okay.
Yes, similar. The genophage, depending on your lore of choice. Dawn, would you be willing to express that or explain that in front of five dragons?
Yes, and a bunch of elves.
And a bunch of elves.
Oh boy, we're not.
So how would you sum that one up?
Oh. Very, like, watching everybody, it would be kind of like stating facts, like textbook ways, like not really like leading his opinion one way or the other, just letting everyone know that fuckery happened and it was a very one-sided thing.
Sure. Now, as you bring that up, King Mendelrock says, "Well, that's not entirely the whole story. I mean, there were the dragon flights, and they were oppressing our people. We were fighting back against uncountable odds, and then it kind of shifts over to, well, you slaughtered our children, you killed our, and
Okay.
it's
Whoa. Like, time for a segue. Time for let's not get into a you did this and we did that, especially since I am not certain that anyone on this boat was here when that happened. And I'm not going to say that part because it's quite possible. I don't know how old these dragons are.
So even the most ancient of dragons, a generation passed.
Okay, cool.
So
this is
none.
not living memory for anyone
is-
here.
Well, so how about a? No, you've all studied dragons pretty well. Dragons have generational or hereditary memories.
They do?
They are born knowing information from their parents. So while it's not firsthand, it is in their bones.
And it still has emotion connected to it.
It sure does.
Hence why this is gonna get sticky. Yeah, we're gonna try to distance from that topic.
Okay.
Then, not like directionally, but maybe just like all right, just gonna put a pin in that, because we don't want to start a negotiation off with, going down the wrong path before the party even starts.
And you can see that of the dragons, most of them are willing to. Yeah, it's a while back. We don't need to bring that one up right now. But Protanther, the gold dragon,
damn it,
he just has it in his eyes, and he just keeps looking over at the elf. It's not something that he's not going to reach over and bite him, but it's not settled.
I know, buddy, but this elf wasn't involved. Probably.
Talise is gonna kind of guide the attention back to herself for a
Sure.
moment.
Oh, thank you.
Dragons. She's like, it's the bronze dragon that's philosophizing with her, correct?
The brass one. Right?
Brass. Eleuthera.
Eleuthera. And even though she's addressing Eleuthera, she will make eye contact to anyone who is paying attention, dragon-wise. She's like, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there were 7 children who were abandoned for any number of reasons. And they came from all different races. They were left in an orphanage, and the people who raised those children worshipped an evil god and taught them as best they could to follow the ways of Shar. And the village that the orphanage was located in, they painted those children as undesirable, unwanted. Not because they were evil or had done anything wrong, but because of the association with the orphanage. These are innocent children. They grow up and they become their own people. They leave to find their way. And one day they all join together for a reunion in their hometown, only to find it under siege. Now, these people were not kind to these children. They were not friendly. They would turn their backs. They'd rather those children not existed at all for no reason other than an association that they didn't necessarily carry with them. But those children, despite logic and the instinct for survival, risked their lives to save those people who had shunned them. And then they continued risking their lives for strangers, for a world full of strangers. Elves and dwarves and humans and dragons and genasi and all kinds of living beings will be affected for the worse if Tiamat is free. Just because you're bored doesn't mean that the change is the right kind of change. When good people do nothing, that's when evil wins.
And as you kind of finish on that, Eleuthera's looking thoughtful. Nimur, the bronze dragon, sort of says, yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. They've made a choice. They had no instinct. They had no need to be good, but they were good. And that is the saving grace. That is the worth of humanity, for they can choose good. And Taz sort of says, yes, well, some of them also choose evil. I've had a number of liars and thieves raid my hoard, steal my things. You can't judge them easily. They seem fair and turn foul as often as they seem foul and turn fair. What proof do we have? What can we say? What could they do to ever set themselves as truly good? We'll always be guessing.
If you are truly good, shouldn't you just have hope that they will make the right choices? To wipe out thousands, tens of thousands, maybe more, because there's a chance that a portion of them will do evil deeds? That's not right.
And I think about now, the conversation quiets down to the point where everyone's getting thoughtful. No, we should talk about this more tomorrow. Let's eat. Let's drink. Let's take this in. And the other lords come along. There's some gambling. There's some relaxation that happens. This is a moment away from the business of courts. There's no communication on or off the boat. You're isolated here. And that's both an opportunity to relax and an opportunity to actually get things done. As evening settles in and you're brought to your rooms, you're bunking 4 to a room, and they are tight and they're hammocks, but it's comfortable enough. The river travel is steady, and the clay golems have a very smooth motion to the boat that you adapt to reasonably easily. There's a knock on the door, and when it's opened, Rhea Nightshade is standing outside, and she sort of looks at you and says, "Oh, unfortunately, the one I dealt with last time isn't here, the little mouse folk. But I hope I might be able to make an offer towards you. It hasn't much to do with the business at hand, but I understand you've come into ownership of Zonthal's Tower, and my associates and I would be very interested in purchasing the rights to that tower from you, along with a amount of gold. I can assure you that those are my associates who specialize in removing problems, will be at the forefront of your efforts against the cult. Now, we're willing to offer you 25,000 gold, along with our services in the upcoming battle. Now, if you choose not to accept our offer, we will of course continue to support the war effort, but we will focus a little more heavily on defending our own than striking where told."
That's not fair. I haven't even been able to go through the tower and figure out what's in there.
Well, life isn't fair, dear.
Insight check.
Insight check. Sure, you can roll an insight check.
Did we see anything in there that we would think would be particularly like? What's their interest in it? I guess there's no
So-
harm in asking.
I mean, you can certainly ask. And their interest is they want the tower. And just on things you know about it, the tower and the lands around it were created using multiple wish spells. A wizard spent tremendous energy making that thing. It is.
Well, yeah, that's why I want it too. But
It's got some stuff going on. But you haven't uncovered what that stuff is yet, aside from the maze, which is pretty impressive as far as making a defensible place. It can't be approached save for passing through the maze. There are very few places in the world that are like that. That means that if you could defend the maze, you would be proof against dragon attack. Because a dragon would have to come through the maze to get to you.
Oh,
Tiny
legit?
maze, big dragons. And that's just the thing that jumps to mind immediately. Now, a dragon could, of course, solve the puzzles, but that's a lot easier to defend than dragon coming overhead and dropping boulders on you.
Legit. Can we think about it and talk about? I mean, like,
Certainly. We'll be on the boat for 5 days. Oh, do avoid mentioning it to the other party members. It might sour their opinions of us.
and who was that was asking about it? Not Ollie.
That is Rianne. Rianne
Rianne.
Nightshade of the Legitimate Merchants / Centaur.
When did you meet them before?
So the Zentarum had agreements with Waverly, and I think someone else also at least talked up the Zentarum.
So we as a party had not met Rianne before.
Had not met. You were aware of Rianne. She attended the council.
Gotcha.
So you
Okay.
had seen her at the council, but didn't have any direct association aside from just maintaining contact.
Yep. All right. Did I
I
get
just had a
anything on
terrible
my
moment.
insight check there? 19.
So on the insight check, very similar. They want it. It is a magical relic, and they're thinking, hey, we could get a legitimate claim to a magical relic for the low price of 25,000 gold, and doing just a little bit extra effort in a war we want to win anyway.
I don't
Okay,
suppose
so
that's
pretty
not
much
a.
face value.
It
I was
sounds
gonna
like
say-
it probably would have cost way more to make that.
It seems like a pretty low ball offer for a straight up bot.
It is.
But,
It is.
when you go on the war effort thing,
That's
you
the
then
kicker
have to.
there. And you know the Zentarum by reputation are thugs, murderers, and assassins. So when they say problem solvers, they're probably talking about kill things. And not like the honorable kill things, like half the army wakes up dead kill things.
That's legit in a war. I think I've never been in one.
It's frowned upon usually by losers, but
Wow.
I guess the
You're
winner
not
writes
wrong.
the winner writes the history. George Washington was a hero because he went across and killed a bunch of Hessians on Christmas. Tet Offensive was a bad thing. Same thing, almost the same day. But sorry, too many real world examples there. Back to fantasy. So yeah, no, they are decidedly effective assassins, and would be putting themselves more at risk than just being in the rank and file by going into enemy lines and doing such things for the low price of your tower. The price.
Let's talk about counter offers later.
Okay.
Because I feel like there needs to be a counter offer, not just a sure. Here's my, hopes and dreams that I've already become attached to.
Oh, yeah. And Rianne's like, oh, absolutely. As a legitimate merchant, we love haggling. And so Rianne leaves you to your conversations. Chloe, I saw a little shot there. Yes, of course, in the evening there's an attempt to address Prothanther. You certainly may. What would you like to say? what is the top?
I mean, it was just based on the previous conversation, so we can just fast forward to the next day. That's
Okay.
fine.
We'll come up to the
I
next
do
day then.
have a thing quick.
Yeah.
So Mord, once everyone's kind of, getting ready for their form of rest, will go down to wherever all their stuff is held and grab out the shield that was given to him, and will go over to wherever Kuhloe has stationed herself for the night and just kind of hold it in his hands and just go, well, I don't really know what to say. I'm not really a words person, as you might have noticed during the conference upstairs. But I know that Valandra, excuse me.
He's a little choked up. It's an emotional moment.
It's sure, yeah. She really cares about you and wants you to be safe, and I don't think we're gonna need it here, but we're gonna need it sometime soon anyway. So I feel like you should have this. And hands over the or offers, I guess, the +1 shield to Kuhloe.
Okay.
She felt pretty bad about not able to get you something earlier, so I think it would mean a lot to her if she saw you using it.
Well, thanks. Where, like, does Kuhloe know where this came from, and has she seen Mord using it? She doesn't want to take something away from Mord unless he needs both hands to wield his fucking awesome weapon now.
Yeah.
He does need both hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
It's not a one-handed cleave.
No.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, Kuhloe will just kind of stumble over herself because I think this is like one of the first interactions that her and Mord have had one-on-one, and she's just like, "Thank you. I mean, that's a fancy, very creepy looking weapon you got there, and I'm sure you need both hands to do it. But I'll make good use of this. Valandra's a worrier, that one, but she doesn't need to worry so much anymore. She's got people like you and now me and the rest of us. And she's stronger than she gives herself credit for, but I appreciate this. I really do. I mean, as you see, and she'll kind of toss away the shield that she had, which was like just boring. It was polished, but it was just like boring. All her stuff is not customized anymore, and she'll put this on. She's like, I felt very lost not having some of my stuff, and you guys have given me a whole nother family. Again, you've welcomed me back in. You've shared your goods. I was gone for so long. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Of course. By the way, really good shield to play a few games of dice. That's something that Valandra and I used to do a fair amount. It's been a while since we've played. But yeah, just have fun with it.
Noted. Thank you.
+1 shield / dice tower. It's a tower shield.
Quick question. What was on that shield? I don't remember how it was designed or if it was specifically designed in any way. Either Valandra or...
have a the holy symbol of Eldath engraved on it.
Okay.
You got it.
I don't remember if you had changed it at all when you got it.
Oh no, absolutely not. It was a gift. You can't really do that.
Sounds good. So the evening passes into morning. Breakfast is served. Everyone gets themselves dolled up in similar but slightly different fashion. And the conversations continue on throughout the days. There is some conversation on this day about pure military matters. They speak of where troops are, how they are amassed, travel times, that sort of thing. And the dragons seem to be following along. Their interest is a little less so because at the moment it seems like they're just going to, once they get back, they're being courteous. But the plan is, yeah, when we get back, we're just gonna all fly out and take care of it and let you little people do your little people things. Chloe seems like she wanted to speak to Protanther come the morning. He's eaten his breakfast, bacon and eggs, pancakes, black coffee, cigar.
Is it like Ron Swanson kind of breakfast where it's all the bacon and eggs?
No, they're.
I don't think you heard me. I said I wanted all the bacon and eggs that you have.
Wait.
Yeah,
I worry what you just heard.
They're keeping it moderate. Though you do notice that they are using their own salt and pepper shakers, and you have never seen salt glitter as brightly, nor heard it crunch as much as when the dragons are eating.
Are they eating diamonds?
They're eating diamonds and onyx. So the dragons are keeping up appearances.
You know she's gonna have to ask about that. You know she is.
You certainly may.
You gonna ask them to pass it or what?
Well, she's not gonna eat it herself. She knows she can't ingest that stuff, but she's like, "Is that diamonds that you're seasoning your breakfast with?"
Yes.
Like,
yes.
What does it taste like? She's just so into it.
And just like as you ask that, like all four of the dragons turn and look to Nimr, and Nimr is like, can't wait to say it. It gives it a rich flavor. And they're all like, oh no.
Elise actually laughs. She will actually laugh.
Amazing. Dusk is delighted. Like her
Oh
eyes
my
just
goodness,
got
she's
so
my favorite
big.
now.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, Nimr and they're like, he waits for people to ask that. It's almost embarrassing.
I'm so glad I could help out.
It's been 3,000 years.
Bronze dragon.
It's been that long since
loves puns.
You know, you should socialize more, and then more people would ask you that because that was amazing.
So and Nimr's like a great yeah, see, that's the benefit of humanity. Brand new audience every 80 years.
I love it.
So Nimr seems all in. Kind of happy to be with y'all. Kind of interested in your adventure stories, and like when you bring up something, he doesn't try and one up you, but he tries to minus one you. Like he says, "Oh, I did something just a little not that cool. But can I tell you about it?" And then he tells you about the story he has. So like when you were fighting Oni, he's like, "Oh, Onis, yeah. I actually fought some ogres. How much harder is an Oni than an ogre?" Oh yeah.
And then plays. Oh gosh, if she's telling the story about that stupid Oni, like that, she's taking up the whole table with the fury she felt. Like she's pounding her fists on it. Like it's intense. It is an intense thing that she goes through. Like the bitch fucking stole my backpack for a fucking book.
And
just like
when you're on that one, Taz is in like right alongside. Stole your stuff. That is the worst when they steal your stuff.
It's my stuff. And here's the thing. We took that book fair and square. Spoils of the fight. They were trying to eat horses, for heaven's sakes. And you know what? If she'd asked me for the damn book back, I'd have given it to her because I'd rather keep the backpack. I don't need your stupid book. Like,
Ruqiyo's gonna lean over to Valandra and be like, how much of this is Talays and how much of this is like extra dragony Talays?
It's all Talays.
So you get a little bit of commisery from Taz over the theft of things and how important it is to get your things back, and you kind of have that going on. rest of the conversation is happening, Salt and Pepper. The other lords and ladies are trying to, put their best foot forward and talk about, working together, and, wouldn't it be great, we could time our attacks, we could take out archers for you, we could occupy. And they're like, we're dragons. We don't really, it'll be fine. We're just going to fly in and take care of it.
I feel like Dusk is probably having a field day, just like comparing. Because the thing is, Dusk loves shiny things. She likes to admire treasures, and no doubt these guys are just laden in finery and jewels and all that.
They
and
are
she
very
has her
much.
own collection of shinies, and they probably aren't as impressive as the dragons, obviously, but she's still excited to like talk about them and compare them and learn about them and see like, oh, maybe where can I learn, or where can I find more shinies that is like that are like free game. It's like, do you have tips? Like that kind of thing.
So
How do you start a horde 101?
So as you're having that conversation, you start discussing shinies, and the one who seems to have the most shinies does seem to be Protanther, being the oldest of the dragons. And the head of him, he's wearing the most bling, and he's sort of he treats you, Dusk, in sort of a all right, let me tell you how money works kind of way. And he sort of gestures to the stones that are around your neck. He's like, while that might be eye-catching for a moment, what you really want to do is start with things of value and then increase their value. And he kind of demonstrates, he's like, now this stone here, you'll note that it has no flaws, which is rare. This one has flaws and might be a little more eye-catching, but will never be as good as this flawless one. So you need to avoid, something garish in favor of something of actual value. And he sort of starts explaining that to you, and he asks about your necklace. Where did you find that?
Oh, well, my kobold friend Harry made it for me.
And you hear like a from the other four.
Oh no.
You should have just said Harry made it.
Kobolds.
It was a gift and it was cute.
Creations of the Dark Queen.
They can change. And that's Celeste just piping in from across the table. They can change. They don't have to be dark, evil things.
Harry's a sweetheart.
Harry's a sweetheart. He saved her life at the risk of his own more than once. And believe me, it was more than once, because she loves to run straight face first into danger.
And the dragons seemed a little bit taken aback at this, the notion that a kobold could change. No, the evil is ingrained in them in much the same way as goodness is ingrained in us. At his core, he is still an evil creature.
Quick question. When they say us, they are specifically talking metallic dragons, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
they are not considering themselves the same species as chromatic dragons. So
you've actually picked up that they consider metallic dragons good, the same way that categorically chromatic dragons are evil. They are built that way. And they seem much more comfortable with the concept of black and white, good and evil. The shades of gray, they don't like.
And this conversation is making them uncomfortable.
And there's that's like, no, you're saying no. That's, he must be tricking you, or he's simply scared of you. Something to that effect. They cannot change any more than we could change.
To what benefit would it be to throw himself in danger for my sake? He would just die.
Many of the underlings of the powerful throw themselves needlessly into danger. Some out of a notion of loyalty, of fear. It depends on the creature.
But he's got free will just like any of us.
And it's more of a does he? If the queen commanded, would he not respond?
Well,
I don't know the
anything about
answer
the
to that.
queen, but I
Yeah,
love
no,
it.
it's fair. There isn't a solid answer. That is fair. And Eleuthera's like, I feel we're covering ground we've covered before. We've been asked as a council to come to a decision. We should try and absorb any new knowledge, anything novel, different this time.
I mean, the idea of a kobold changing seemed pretty novel, but you don't want to talk about that.
Well, we don't have this kobold here as an example, and one aberrant out of tens of thousands does not show a trend. There could be something wrong with that kobold.
Or
Perhaps.
there could be something right with him.
Huh.
That is fair. We were speaking of an individual. Again,
Yeah,
making the mistake of generalizing to an entire species.
It's just so weird that they're trying to generalize everybody. You know, everybody with free will makes their own decisions. They got that choice.
And Eleuthera's like, perhaps the problem is free will. And we'll get off on that tangent.
Oh, that no.
So there's a bit of a spin there, and that sort of loops argumentatively almost back to the same spot again. But as this discussion's ongoing, breakfast turns to lunch turns to dinner, and the day prepares to pass. Kuhloe, was there a point that you wanted to bring up that hasn't been yet?
I mean, just touching on some of the other conversation points,
sure.
Like from the past 2 days now.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to just make a case to Protanther, seeing as though he's like the leader of the group. And it seems like even though they're all leaders in their own right, they'll kind of follow him. At least that's the gist that I'm assuming.
It seems more of a voting council. So if the weight of the council was against him, but right now the council seems mostly in favor of his idea of we are dragons, dragon problems, stay out of our way. Nimmer is definitely giving the come on, humans, they're great.
Okay.
But so far he's the only one that's super on your side. The others are in favor of humanity, generally speaking, but maybe not believing that they need your help just now.
Okay.
So, maybe not while the dragons are around, but Ruqiyo has a question of when do they think that they're gonna need our help? Like,
yeah, that was gonna be part
when
of...
they fail to defeat Tiamat on her own?
Well, and Valandra would bring up that it's not just dragon problems. Like, yes, there are dragons involved in the dragon cult, but there's also humans and wizards, and that makes it humanity's problem, humanoid, as well. Like, it's in order to counter, in order to understand where they're coming from, we should match them. We should have a chance to prove that humans are not just evil. That for everyone who does evil, more than one who wants to do good will oppose them.
Yeah, long story short, Chloe's trying to get across, hey, something about learning from our past mistakes. We have shorter lives than you. You can't really judge us based on not learning from our past. We don't have it ingrained in your bones like you guys do. You might not need our help right now, but we're only going to get one chance at this. And if you think that we'll get more than one chance as a group, as humanity, as dragons and people, you're crazy. So why not go in all together? So I'm just trying to shove all of this in because, like, I have everything all written down and I won't forget it. And there's like 8, 9 people here.
So as you start kind of pushing that all in, Eleuthera is like, actually, that's a very good point. You should have the same opportunity. Now, the cult, as I understand it, has taken to worshipping the Dark Goddess. We should give you the opportunity to do better. Do you feel your people would accept the teachings of Bahamut?
Oh God, done.
Our people would choose their gods for them. That is what makes us capable of good. That is what makes us capable of doing it. By trying to strong arm us into following your god, that is not giving us free choice. That is in essence an kind of twisted evil act.
No, not force you to follow. This isn't a brainwashing or.
It feels kind of like a trade off, though.
Well, it is. It's a knowledge. For every city, temple, etc. that you have, we have leadership here. For any city you have that has more than, let's say, 3 temples, that seems like a good number. You shall have one dedicated to Bahamut, where his teachings are available, though not enforced. We don't force parishioners to come, but we will ask for a place to educate.
That's not a bad idea at all.
I don't see any problem with that. Is that all that it's going to take to get you on our side? Because that is completely reasonable.
So of the council, you can see Eleuthera's very interested in this. The others are like, well, I mean, that doesn't really do anything for me, but if that makes him happy, so that would potentially earn you a vote. Now, you may not have that authority personally, but there are enough representatives of the Lord's Alliance and such things here that deal could be brokered.
Kasey, out of character / in character, Ollie the Silver Dragon, we obviously kind of in character did our research before going in and kind of learned about these metallic dragons, and I'm assuming they follow the lore of like silver dragons, like people normally like to watch people, like to collect artifacts and that kind of stuff, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I know dragons just like their hordes in general. So in an attempt to, sway this one, I guess this is in character. Like, does Chloe still have her, they were necklaces from the orphanage, right? Or pendant, whatever those were.
Yeah.
I believe Chloe's was lost, but I believe all the others still have theirs.
Are we gonna try to buy your love?
You have my pendant.
Yeah, I guess if I don't have mine, I'll turn to Joey, whisper at him, and ask if I can have it, and just tell him to trust me. And if he does, I will go to Ollie and try and make eye contact with the scary human-shaped dragon, and just say, I lost everything. And I was in a very dark place. And I found my way out of it due to my family that you see standing behind me. And I choose to still fight this evil, even though I was tempted by what I can only describe as an evil force. While inside there, I still chose to do good. And one of the only things that I have of my home, I lost. My brother has given me his. And I give that to you as a token of good faith, and it's the most treasured thing that I have to give and that he has to give to me. And if we can find it in ourselves to put our faith in you like this, perhaps you can side with us in good faith also. And we can forge a new path, a new history can begin here with all of us.
And, as you're speaking, Ollie gives you 100% attention. She's polite, she's attentive, and you can see emotion registering on her face. It's a little hard to read because of the draconic features, but she clasps your hand and says, I understand loss more than perhaps you can possibly imagine. My niece was killed and taken from me. thousands of years together, and now an emptiness where she once was. I can no longer hear her song.
Mm.
But the dwarves wear her body as ornament. I cannot abide by them. I will not ally with those who would desecrate her body. And she's like, just, there's an eye flicker towards Mord with his spear and Joey with his ham hock. It's there's no remorse amongst them. There's no forgiveness asked. It is just
I think at this point, Mord would, seeing her kind of key in on the glaive and just walk up and say, this I understand that this is kind of an awkward thing to have here, but this I brought along as more of a sign that we were on the same, hopefully, page, that we were doing the thing that needed to be done, which is preventing Tiamat from coming back. This probably isn't my place to say this, but I'm saddened by what happened to your niece and that you have been so hurt by it all these years. I don't know who the dwarves are that wear her body, but perhaps there's something that we can do after this is taken care of to at least help you process your feelings.
And kind of as you say that, she drags her eyes down to you, and she sort of reaches out and puts a hand on your shoulder for a moment. She says, I understand the power the dragon's being holds and how that can be channeled. It's the lack of respect and the lack of acknowledgement, and that is truly what strikes it home. And while true, it is not your place to make such apologies. There are those here who could, and her eyes for a moment move over to the Dwarven ambassador, who could speak for the Dwarven people.
Just also quickly, he'll add on, what was your niece's?
Say it again.
What was your niece's name? Or what is your niece?
In the common, she would go by Molly.
Molly. A fine name. And then I think Mord will kind of like hang out there for a little bit, but I think he's gonna be pondering over what to do next.
And kind of on that, keying off of it, Protanther sort of chimes in. There you see. These races know what must be done, and yet they refuse to do it. For all that they claim that they can change, they never do. And he shoots a gaze over at the elves again.
Chloe will turn back to Protanther and just say, what are we on this boat for? 5 days?
5 days. You got three more days to go.
Just say, look, we're dredging up a lot of feelings here, a lot of lifetimes, some of which are far removed from the people that stand before you. Give us time. Will you give us that to talk amongst ourselves and find out how we can come to a way that we can honor those, and she'll kind of gesture towards Ollie and say, honor those that have been wronged by our ancestors, and see if we can come to some agreement to move forward through this. Chloe, long story short, just wants to okay, everybody chill, and then go off and try and talk to some of the humans and get them to stop being turds. Or humans,
Sure.
dwarves, elves.
It's very reasonable. Dinner, evening, next day, and we'll call this day 3. Now, of course, you've had time to talk, but it's a matter of getting into a real conversation with them. So who all would you like to address on day 3?
As far as Chloe's concerned, the leader of the dwarves and the leader of the elves.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would follow Chloe on Ambassador Conrad
Oh,
Braun Anvil.
Chloe would kind of step behind Mord and like do this like that. No. I was kind of. I mean, I'll back you. I'll back you up. I mean, they ain't gonna look at me very kindly. Then I don't even have a beard.
All right,
Lace
so
is actually gonna after this, I'm just gonna let you know Lace will want to approach Taz and Akella because she hasn't said anything.
So as you towards the dwarf, he looks over towards you and kind of gives you the up down look. He's like, "Greetings, cadet."
Yeah, this
This is
isn't what I
outfit.
normally wear. And okay, I'm not entirely clear about the history. So the family that Mord is from has been basically non-existent for politically for a number of years, correct?
Sure. You've been out of basically you're distantly removed from anything important. So you're
Okay.
not traveling in the royal circles, things like that. But it's still a illustrious family name. It goes back a long ways. So you can pull name if you wish.
No, I wasn't gonna pull name. I was just wondering if if Mord would potentially have known Conrad at some point.
You know of Conrad. He is the representative of dwarves in Waterdeep, so he is, up the chain of command somewhere. He's, if you would know the name of the ambassadors of the United States, you would know the name of the ambassadors of the dwarf nations. If you're not that politically involved, then you just know him as, yeah, he must be the ambassador to Waterdeep.
Okay. Just clearing up a few things first. Yes, well, I don't usually wear this sort of thing anyway. But it seems like I have a bit of a not a bone to pick, but you kind of get the meaning here, don't you?
I think I see what you're coming for, but what of it?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So this and I don't know if tongues is being cast every day.
Yes.
Yes.
It is okay. And how long does it last? An hour?
That's a good question.
It lasts an hour.
It's an hour, but we can say you've got it going back and forth as needed.
Okay.
There's lots of spell slots. I think there's 3 of us that know it.
Can you
Okay.
imagine though when it drops off like mid sentence and you're like, just wait. I have no idea
Yeah.
what they're saying.
It's like
So-
Otalikakakumpa.
yeah, the dragons are polyglot. They speak if it's known these 5 speak it. They are that old. The rest, prefer to speak in different languages. But yeah.
So this representative of the Silver Dragons, Alia. I don't know what specifically she's talking about with the disrespect of her niece. Do you know what these items are?
Well, taking down a dragon that age, if it's one of the council's niece, it must have been a moot. And he's referring to dragon moots, basically a large dragon hunt, which usually involves multiple clans working together to take down a serious dragon, usually to get access to a mountain or a horde, and then mine that mountain. It sounds like it may have been a while ago, and you do know that those who participate in a moot often come away with suits of dragon scale armor, weapons, that sort of thing. So it's very likely somewhere amongst the clans, pieces of Ali's niece are being worn as armor.
Okay. And you said that the clan that I was a part of was a participant in that moot, correct?
You are aware that silver dragons have been killed in moots, and that would be the only thing that you could think of that she would really hate dwarves for, because that is a
okay, just a general. Okay, I
just
thought it was a bit more specific.
Yeah, your family may have been involved, but you're not that close with your family to know if anyone's wearing it.
Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely not. Well, that's a problem. I was kind of hoping it was like, just one or two people, but if it's several clans, then that's a bit more tricky. And
Kasey.
it was years
Mhm.
ago.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Mord.
Oh no, I was just kind of vamping.
Well, Kasey, is it canon that Chloe went out? Because I remember before she got bubbled, she had gone to various places and talked people into helping.
She had. You did.
Okay.
You did a lot of. You did a lot of support rousing. Yep.
Okay. Could so would this guy recognize me or have heard of me or any of the other clans that maybe he's talking about that might have this armor? Would have been somebody she had spoken to, or would know?
I don't know if you would have picked out dragon scale armor, especially. Maybe.
Okay.
How about a perception check? So you've definitely seen dwarves in dragon scale armor, but to pick out a particular one and know it was silver as compared to white, it's just not ringing a bell. But
Okay.
a little bit more conversation with the ambassador, and Conrad says, "Look, I don't know that I can produce it on demand, but the king has given me permission to negotiate. If what's required is the return of this armor, and if you feel that it is worth impugning the honor of our ancestors by apologizing for a dragon moot, I will apologize to the dragon on behalf of the dwarven people and see that her niece's remains are returned to her." And he looks super uncomfortable.
You can practically hear him like almost throwing up on the words.
think maybe
like,
we need to-
Yeah, the
apologize.
words are
Practice
just
that a
kind
little
of
bit.
like escaping.
Would it be better maybe to apologize, for, any grief or harm that the dwarves have caused rather
No,
than
I
apologizing
think
for the act? Like, would that be
I
easier
think
for you to
all
do
the
heartfeltly?
equivocating is gonna be spotted, and I don't think that's gonna be taken in the same
I don't
manner
think it's
as an apologize.
equivocating. I think it's finding something that he can say and mean. I think an empty apology would be more insulting than being careful about what you're saying.
I think that's what we reached with him is all that he's capable of through gritted teeth apologizing for is not necessarily pain, because dwarves don't. I mean, I don't think he sees it like that. He just sees it as. It doesn't even sound like he sees it as a wrong thing. He's just like, if this is what is needed, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
And you're all picking up on it, and you do have the conversation about, you're gonna say this like you mean it, right? And you get to the point that yes, it'll be an apology. It will be an apology that is wrung out of him, as compared to something he came to on his own. But it is a apology on behalf of the dwarven people for a slight and a return of her niece, or her niece's remains. So, Mord,
Wondering.
as a dwarf, and he puts this one like squarely on you.
Yeah.
I know these others may think they understand, but on our honor, should I apologize to the dragon?
Just the pain that you can hear in his voice when he says the
Oh
word
my God.
apologize.
Like,
Have-
Like
Dusk
it's
is just in the
dirtiest
background,
words
like
that
making
he's
gestures.
ever had to say.
What sort of gestures? I can imagine several, but I'm guessing they're
Several!
not the ones.
Yeah! Just so many gestures like, are you kidding me? You murdered a living person!
A good, a profoundly good creature. It's like, it's not like you went out and found a black dragon. You killed a silver dragon. What's wrong with you people?
They had a lot of
Like,
gold. But no,
I mean,
oh,
This
somebody
is-
would have to hold Dusk back.
This is
Yeah.
why Eleutheria? Is that it? Eleutheria?
Eleuthera, yeah.
Eleuthera is having issues with helping is because they had a lot of gold is the justification for murdering something that is minding its own business and never had
That's-
gold.
Yeah, it's all in there.
Yeah.
So Mord, and he
Yep.
there's been a lot of gestures and things, but this whole time
Yep.
he's just been silent and like eyes locked with you, like
Yep. So Mord starts off. I know, Ambassador Branville, that this is difficult. If nothing else, I am a dwarf of honor, and I understand that this is tantamount to political suicide. But there's a lot more at stake here than. I mean, we're risking the enslavement of the dwarves, the enslavement of all sentient creatures, if Tiamat escapes, and I think we're going to need the help we can get. I guess weighed against the feelings that dwarves have towards shiny things, which I get, and the actual lives, livelihoods. I just don't see any other choice. And I don't want to ruin your career. I get it. Here's what I'm thinking. You've been allowed to make decisions here. But you say that it was, and you issue whatever sort of proclamation back in the Dwarven lands that I did this.
and the ambassador just sort of reaches out and claps you on both shoulders. He's like, "Ha! No. I rely on your judgment. You've seen what's been going on, but no. I'll make the apology. And, well,
And
at least we
maybe
have a
we
war.
can-
We have a war, and, well, either I'll live as a hero or I'll die before I go back to my shame." And at that, he sort of like just squares up and just like dwarfs it out, square jaw,
Oh.
square shoulders,
Aw.
turns and starts marching off to
I'll
go
dwarf
make
it
an
out with him.
apology.
Yep, I'll dwarf it
So-
out with him.
Yeah, he just heads over and he starts to make his apology, and it's accepted. They acknowledge it. He does an admirable job. He is an ambassador. He does communicate well, but it's visible that he is uncomfortable in this situation, and I think the dragons actually respect that more. So yeah, you've now got the
And,
votes.
Mord
he
will
does-
also tack
He
on
does. Yeah.
that that he will assist in the reclamation.
Sounds great. So Ali accepts that. She's like, yes, I can't turn away from a display like that. And Nimmer's like puts his arm around Ali's shoulder and kind of gives her a noogie, like, I knew you'd come around. And Eleuthera is still, waiting on the proposal. And someone had mentioned Taz. And Taz did get invested in the conversation that you had about the stolen backpack and the recovery and how important it was to get back what was stolen. What conversation would you all like to have there?
It's going to be a casual approach because there's been a lot of attention paid to every other dragon except for Tasmikella, and Talace definitely took note of that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely an effort to make sure that she's paying full attention to everyone, making everyone feel included, and acknowledging Tasmikella's importance here. But it's actually more of a casual approach, and just kind of comes up as like, so what do you think about it? I don't think we've heard your opinion yet.
Well, honestly, I very much enjoy the company of your races. I feel you're a benefit to the world, but so many of you are two-faced, if not more. I've had so much stolen away from me, and it's hard to say whether I've gained more than I've lost. And unfortunately, it seems that interactions between our peoples end disastrously for one or both. Either jealousy grows on one side or the other, or merely the differences of our natures bring about destruction.
Bad breakup.
And she's like,
Jarlaxle? I'm sorry.
and she's like, well, I suppose you could say that. The thing that the
There's
thing that
other
jumps
types of
most,
breakups than romantic ones.
the thing that jumps most to my mind is centuries ago, I fought with a black dragon. Our battle was epic. We contested for decades. And when finally they were defeated, the thing I had to remember the battle by was a token of my triumph, a horn that would call back heroes long dead. And it was stolen from me. And it's like that entire century of my existence was just taken away by a human who saw it simply as an item of power. They had no understanding of what it meant to me.
What did
And
it look
that's
like?
Valandra, hearing this, will walk
Yeah,
over.
because I think we're all clicking in on this moment. Because
And-
Lace is probably like
All of us just kind of
Valandra
like
over with one hand, like
Passive perception.
glancing at
24.
each other,
Okay.
like,
Didn't Joey use it last?
like I literally
yeah, as you're all,
taller.
as you're all zooming in on, as you're all picking up
I
on
guess
it, it's
what-
like
sorry,
it's a horn of Valhalla. It is most likely the one that you are holding. When she describes it, it matches very closely, if not exactly. Showing it to her would certainly answer the question one way or the other.
Yeah,
But I didn't hear that was being carried about right now.
I actually did mention that I have my holding with me on this trip because that's where all my stuff is stored.
Oh no, it's definitely in the it's in the hold 100% or on you. I didn't catch that the Horn of Valhalla was on someone. If it
Kyle.
It
is,
would be on Valandra.
Kyle, did Joey give the horn back to Valandra after the fight?
I think we tried. I don't think we ever did.
all right. So since there's a
This
question as who might have it, let's just say for now it's in the hold, easily accessible. You could run down and grab it right now if you wanted to.
That's literally what Slice was like. She'll be like, stay here 1 second, and she'll just
Maybe
run.
she might want to like go into a side room and not have an emotional thing in front of everyone.
Please note that Dusk, however, is just like all fluffed up and bouncing up and down. She's just like
just having a good time.
yeah.
Like, Talk about fate.
It's just like
Valandra
amazing.
will
The luck.
Valandra will, as Talais is running to get it, will very seriously start to talk to which dragon is this? I'm sorry,
Taz
this is
McKellen.
Taz.
Taz
Taz
McKellen.
McKellen.
Taz.
Yeah.
Yep, the female copper dragon.
I actually do know of such a horn. I've used it on several occasions to protect my family, and it means a lot to me in the peace of mind and the safety it gives to the people that I love. But Tiamat threatens more than that, and if it was stolen from you, then the right thing is to give it back to you.
That's probably about Run Talais
Yeah,
is
she'll look.
emerging, and she has it in her hands, and she's just picking up right where Valandra leaves off, and like, if it will mean your assistance, and even if it doesn't, and she just holds it out to her.
So as you hold it out, Taz sort of reaches out and takes it carefully. She turns it over, and she's not looking at the construction of the horn. You're aware that this is a thing that can be made. She's looking at the little flaws and imperfections, little marks and scratches here and there. She's like, oh, it is. How in the world did you come by this?
How did we come by that? I
That
don't
was-
remember.
Was that in the
believe
White
we
Dragon's
came
Hoard?
that by that in the Hoard of a White Dragon on a floating island.
Yep.
Oh, the cult must have taken it from the thief. And this was destined for Tiamat's hoard. Well.
And then we crashed the floating island into a mountain.
Yes, I did hear about that. I'm rather a bit surprised that a giant would be working in the service of an evil dragon, though. I hear that's been going around recently.
Oh, he's dead now, so.
Yes, but I've heard of fire giants and others taking up with them.
And there
Storm
was a
giants,
vampire,
even.
too. We haven't seen her.
Vampires are bad to the bone. Nothing good there. And Taz is just like focused on this horn, just like, thank you. This means more. This means lifetimes more than you could experience to me. Thank you. And she sort of, takes it and you were offering to her to give it to her, correct?
Yes.
To make double sure. Okay, she does.
And when she takes it and she's taking it and thank you, she's like, we appreciate the loan. It got us out of trouble many times.
And she says, yes, I can see. Well, I suppose nothing ventured, nothing gained. We can't gain anything good out of you if we don't occasionally get something bad from you. So, well, we'll keep trying. At least it's fun. And Taz sort of seems inclined to work with you as well. So it seems that most of the council is in your favor. Eleuthera still waiting on potentially a bargain. Protanther still shooting daggers out of his eyes at the elves. I'm going to say that's probably a wrap. Taz having a bit of an emotional moment, wants to be alone with her thoughts for a while, and the others sort of give her that quiet time. Nimmer is a little more rambunctious, egging Ollie on about, yeah, we're gonna go fight together. It'll be fun. It's like you're gonna let one of the humans ride you, aren't you, Dragonlance?
And that's
right?
and Talais just kind of peeks around the corner at that, like.
And Ollie's like, no.
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 Nimmer is like Dust's favorite right now because he's just so
We
fun.
love- Like,
I
he
was
just
gonna say,
kept hanging
I think Ruqiyo might be drawing like doodles in his journal about Nimmer.
We all are at this point. He's clearly everyone's favorite dragon.
So it's getting to be a good environment. The other lords and ladies are of course leaping at the opportunity to work with them, but they know that no matter what's said now, until the council as a whole reaches a decision, it's all empty air planning. It's all ideas. Which brings us then to the 4th day. You have another full day, 4th day, and then the 5th you'll be pulling into Waterdeep. So any decisions do need to be made by the end of the day tomorrow. On the 4th day, who all would you like to discuss with or address?
I think we need to talk to the Elven Ambassador, and I will continue to cast Enhance Ability.
Sure.
Continuing
As I
to
mentioned.
cast water breathing every morning.
I love
Yeah,
you so much.
I love that you planned for the Doomsday events. It's great.
And the motion of the boat continues on steady and sure. The animate creatures below tirelessly rowing downstream. It is eating up the miles. This would normally be a much longer journey, but you are moving at a really fast clip. Caspier won't shut up about it. He is sort of regained his composure. He's hey, check out my ride. My whip's pretty quick. And trying to make a good impression on all the notables, but everyone sort of realized that even though it's his boat, he doesn't really have any power in this game.
He's the
Nestor,
host.
he's just the host. But he's trying. He's trying, and he's addressed all of you by name several times. Have you visited Yatar? Who will you support in the next election? Hey. So
If he talks to Soleil at all, she will ask if he knows anything about the sailor.
the sailor. Oh, that's a bit of a tale. I'm a bit of a water-faring man myself, and he gestures to his boat. Though I do stay off the open ocean, I find it a bit rough and tumble. The sailor, though, let's see. I think the most recent gossip I've heard about him is that he's left the sea, he's gone inland a bit to find his lady love, locked away in a forest somewhere. Haven't heard a bit more than that. I hear he's calling for his crew. Well, that's a bit of a new one, though that's always just sort of a thing to get young men off to the docks in hope of signing on with a sailor, and instead they get stuck with some tugboat captain. Barge. No, not tugboats. That's not a thing. Some pole barge captain, dredging for clams or some such, but nothing you need to concern yourself with. So nothing super useful aside from the knowledge that you know, though he does seem to talk a good deal. Casper doesn't really impress you. He's got that sort of face that says, as soon as I stop moving, I'm going to get fat. And you're just a guy with a lot of money. But he's trying.
He's trying a little too hard. That's his problem. He's trying too hard.
He is a bit of a tryhard. Even his pet is a bit of a tryhard. He has an octopus as a pet, a mimic octopus. And he's like, look it's like 10 pets in one. And he's like, do a trick, and it does a trick, and it turns itself into like a little fish. And he's like, do a trick, and then it turns itself into like a seahorse. Do a trick, and it's a sea snake. And
that thing is gonna
so
eat
cute.
him.
That's
It's gonna eat him
amazing.
in the night. Oh my god. We're gonna wake up tomorrow and there's gonna be no captain and a fat mimic.
So you're like, oh my god, you don't keep a mimic. And he's like, no. It's just an octopus. That's what they can do. It's a mimic octopus.
That is not what an octopus can do.
And
octopus can do that.
They can-
Octopus can do that.
They can change colors, but they cannot change their physical properties.
so is the
You should see this. Oh, sorry, I'm a marine biologist nerd. And that is absolutely something they can actually do, though. They can recontort their physical forms to mimic other things, shapes, and figures. And
Yes.
it is really fascinating to watch.
and
because-
it is doing that trick. And it is 100% could be mistaken as an actual mimic. Like, these impersonations are fantastic. He's
She's
like,
gonna,
and he's like,
she's gotta. You know what? I gotta. there's dragons, and I really like dragons, so I'm gonna go hang out with them.
But he's like, but I didn't show you my bedroom. Oh.
Like, nope, I gotta dragons.
And yeah, so so let Casper go. But then
My
back to the
grandmother's
rest of
on
the crew.
fire.
Blaze is like,
so I
sorry, I
can
forgot. I have a 5 o'clock. So
I'm sorry, my grandmother is on fire, so I have to go. I left her on the stove.
Oh my god.
If anyone out there remembers that joke, I appreciate you.
Oh no. So I think King Melandrock was being cornered by the party for a conversation. And you do know you have assisted the king in the past, dealing with the Green Dragon and the Green Dragon Mask Wearer. The Green Dragon did escape and has been at large, though not terrifying and destroying the Elven kingdoms the way he had been. So you've got a little bit of a favor lean on him. What would you like to do? And of course he gestures, "Oh, do please sit. Can I offer you anything?" And he calls over the wait staff, and they set out wine, and then they take the wine away and put whiskey in front of the dwarf.
We're all just eyeing him. Like all of
I
us,
want
like,
his
"You're our
side of
last one."
things before I get all pointy, like finger pointy and stuff.
Okay.
Huh?
Like, it'd be really easy to come into this being like, so we know that Protanther has an issue and whatnot, but I want to kind of hear his take on things and see if we can get like more than just a there was bad stuff on both sides sort of things, but like I want to
Sure.
I want to know what he wants basically out of this.
Uh,
That makes sense.
so are you asking him for the history, or are you talking amongst yourselves trying to sort it out first?
No, yeah, beforehand when we're like game planning in the morning over breakfast, that'd just be like Ruqiyo's kind of like idea, like
Sure. So you guys kind of recap your collective knowledge of the past, and we're talking about ancient times. There were first the creator gods who did all kinds of cool stuff, and they're pretty much forgotten. There was the war of the gods, and bad things were created, and bad things died, and good things were created, and good things died. And then the creator gods sort of left. Dragons were one of the major powers next. They did a bunch of stuff. And then up came the age of the elves. At some point, a little foggy, the elves didn't like what the dragons were doing, and the dragons didn't like what the elves were doing. The dragons made big flying Vs and breathed downwards, which was pretty effective against the elves. And the elves cast a really bad spell that made the dragons go berserk to the point where they would eat one another. Parents eating children, destroying their own kingdoms. And it affected all dragons, good and evil. So good dragons did bad things. They don't like that. That was the end of the Age of Dragons. A lot of elven societies died that way. That's almost what caused the extinction of the winged elves, is the defense of that magical powerhouse. Thousands and thousands of years passed, and now man has risen. But the dragons never really forgot this offense, and the elves never really apologized.
Question. So the do we know much about the good dragons? Were they part of like breathing downwards at the elves? Or was that mostly just the chromatic dragons?
Good dragons would have been part. The good dragons would, of course, argue that they were only doing it for the bad things. Humanity is less good than a good dragon, so therefore it must be bad. So at that point we get into that morality argument that there is no correct answer to. But yes, dragons on both sides of the color spectrum were involved.
So, does nobody remember what actually started the fight?
So what actually started the fight was the elves started building a society and decided that they didn't want dragons in charge. So basically, it was
They
elves-
revolted.
They revolted, and whether you want to call it a revolt or whether you want to call it they just began existing, that's where it gets into did the elves come from the Feywild and they're actually invaders, or were the elves natives and the dragons were just oppressors, and it's so long ago, it's all just opinion.
Nobody remembers anything.
Just a lot of
Oh.
hurt feelings left over,
Oh boy.
Everybody who was around is long since dead.
except a couple of gods, and they're
They're not-
troublemakers at best.
They're not talking.
And they don't care.
Upstart
I mean,
youngins.
if we want more information
God.
about that specifically, I could try and ask Eldath.
That is a possibility.
That's a thing I can do.
Mord, as you start speaking with the mimic octopus, it is surprisingly intelligent.
Octopus is really smart.
And not even beyond just being a really smart octopus. And you're like, wait a second. He's like, yeah, familiar, buddy. And it appears that Casper's pet octopus is a familiar.
Oh,
Nice.
Ooh.
so he's a wizard or a sorcerer or something?
Yeah, he
He's
casts a
been
spell.
able to cast a spell. Casper is a human. Humans can take feats, so he could just be a human who is like, hey, I want an octopus. I'm gonna take a magic apprentice feat so I can cast this ritual one time, and that's all I ever get to do.
I bet that octopus has some stories.
Yeah,
I would like to hear this.
I think we're swapping stories right now.
So yeah, you're like swapping stories and like having a good time, and the octopus is like, this is like the best place. He comes in, he gives me a fish, he gives me toys to play with. Sometimes I jump out and scare people. I'm like, blah, and he kind of shows you, and he splatters up against the glass. And he's like, that's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And he's like, it's got me in a swanky dig. I don't have to deal with the ocean anymore.
Yeah, sounds like you're living the life.
It
I don't
is
know. If I were an
awesome.
octopus, I think I might want to still be in the ocean, but I mean, to each their own.
Hey, I've been further upriver than any octopus.
Oh, I bet.
And you're like, well, actually, yeah, I guess, saltwater, freshwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
nope,
like
I'm
showing
sorry.
off, and he's like, and I can do this, and I can do that. And he changes colors and shapes and things.
Yeah. Yep. I didn't want to ask anything in particular. I just wanted to talk.
Yep. He's just chatting away.
So after we get to the point where we're like, yeah, nobody really knows,
Mhm.
Valandra's going to start setting up a ritual circle and get out a lot of incense.
Okay.
And her 4 ivory strips.
And
And
have an
she-
inspiration there, Valandra.
Okay.
Wonder what you doing.
And she is going to cast Legend Lore. On
Yes,
the
I was hoping you would do
Draco
this.
Raid, and the paths leading up to it. So the more we know about it, the more we get. So I don't know how much we're gonna get, but more than we have right now.
Sure.
Deducting 250 gold worth of incense. Is a very
So you
smelly
do
room
get
right now.
Yeah, it is a little like it's legal. You don't have to hide when you do it. It's we're on the river. So
I got it. I got
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
That's why we're gambling.
as you get your additional information, it does expand your knowledge of it, and you get stories from both sides, but it still doesn't give you a point of blame. It's two opposing factions, both of which think they're right and probably were right. And I'm trying to think of something to phrase up that's meaningful for you. Um, uh, I'm gonna
feel
unlike so I think what's gonna come back from Eldath is something along the lines of, unlike most negotiations, in this instance, the party that acts first will win. And maybe that doesn't ring true for Valandra. I don't know if she's worldly enough for it. But I think Talace and some of the others in the room have negotiated hard enough, and certainly Mord would pick up on the business advice that a lot of times during negotiations, when a silence falls, the first person to talk loses. They've given up the advantage. But in this situation, the first person to talk will be the victor.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just so amused at the fact that Valandra's now getting business advice from Eldath.
Welcome to sales.
I'm out of my depth here. I'm like I'm like
That was worth the 250 gold
Yeah.
of
Yep.
incense right there.
See, that's what you get for 250 gold. It's a business transaction.
You attended his webinar. You paid 250 gold, and you're expected to make more than that in the future. So
Eldath is taking advice from Joaquin. She had Joaquin answer the phone. So you got the Joaquin answer.
I don't know. This is out of my depth. Can you take this? Yeah, sure.
Like,
It's like, please hold while we transfer your call.
Oh, divine customer service.
So at what point are we just gonna bring in brownies laced with weed and like serve it to everyone and make sure that everyone's having a good time and has a good trip, and then that is the impression that we work off of. Build that foundation.
I'm so glad we adopted you, Ruqiyo.
I mean, I got the mushrooms. Don't know if I have.
Can we make sure
the
they're
other
not
stuff,
poisonous
but-
to any of the races here first?
Oh my god. I don't know how I make
mean-
almost eternal living beings, comparatively, even elves,
I mean, it seems kind of
like
underhanded.
give up on a grudge and just move
drug-
on and make
drug
new memories together. Like, I could Hallmark card this crap.
I feel like Dusk is just looking back and forth at everybody, and it's like, it just sounds like the both of them didn't know how to just exist next to each other. And honestly, if the only problem is they need to figure out how to cooperate and live on the same planet, then just tell them to get along. Like, that was literally the only issue, that they were
Get along shirt.
Get along shirt. Like, literally, there is nothing wrong except for the fact that apparently the other viewed the existence of the other as a problem, but it's not. Like, literally, if that was all it is, it's just put
Both
them
of
in
you
and get a long
apologize.
shirt.
Yeah,
You
like
can coexist. Literally, there's no reason for you to be fighting. The world is big enough for all of us.
yeah, like the 8 of you are all like together, and you're looking at across each other of distinctly different races and distinctly different backgrounds, and you're like, yeah, this is just stupid. Somebody needs to go smack them around a bit. But the question is how. So I think you've had this discussion.
So I think ideally what we're looking for from the Elven ambassador is an apology for the to apologize for the good dragons that were killed in the Draco Rage without necessarily saying like it was wrong of us to do so, because I don't think they can necessarily say that honestly, but you can be sorry for bad things that happened without apologizing for the cause of it, if that makes sense to.
Sure.
Do you think we'd be lucky enough to get the gold dragon to do the same? Because I'm pretty certain that, like,
That's a
I
big
don't know.
struggle.
Yeah. Oh
You know
gosh.
what? That's a great idea. How
Like,
about
but I feel like both of them need to do it, or it's not gonna have the right effect. You know?
I feel like, practically speaking, if we're gonna go back to the wrongs that were committed, I think they're both on even ground here. Like, you raised most, like, the dragons raised most of the elven civilization, and the elven civilization basically retaliated in a way that almost raised the dragon civilization. So they're kind of on even ground here. As long
You
as they
were
don't
both
keep fighting
wrong.
more,
You were both right.
there shouldn't be a problem.
Yes, that is the right way to phrase it.
Okay.
But so maybe we just get him
Like, get them in the
Y'all
same
are in
room.
even
in
ground.
a room.
You'll both equally slighted each other, but you both have the opportunity here to move on forward from it.
Okay. So do you want me to
Would
do you want to have both of them in the same room at the same time for this part of the conversation, or are you still rehearsing?
I feel like
we
we need to talk to
them
the
individually.
Elven ambassador.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
but
need to
would it
brief both of
be-
Okay.
them, see if we can convince them to go to a meeting later together. Like, it's
Yeah,
not a
but
good
would it
idea
be
to spring that
better
on them.
to like phrase it in like as in maybe to the elves more so to say like they like as opposed to saying like you, because that's a more aggressive say like you as in you personally did this now, but if you phrase it in like they, like
Like
you
the ancestors,
like you're
your
yeah
ancestors.
you're acknowledging that it wasn't like you and your entire race, it was people who made a decision long before you were born. You know, like that might not carry over with the dragons because they have that like ancestral memory thing,
Mm-hmm.
but at least for the elves it might like come off as less accusing,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Hey,
I
you
can
guys who-
kind of see that one.
Hey, you guys who dealt with King Melendruk when you guys were kicking the Green Dragon out, is he like a more of like a casual ruler, or is he like a military ruler? Like, how much background does he have with that, with like wars?
Did we directly interact
I
with
don't think we actually
Melendrak?
talked to him directly.
Yeah,
You
no, I
did
think
not
we
talk
were
with him
just...
directly. You talked with his son, who was representing him. Um,
And everything there felt super shady.
and a lot of it felt pretty shady. And looking at the king's kingdom, the elves are decidedly on the decline. Humanity is decidedly on the rise. There are not many kingdoms of elves left. They are, and when you visited the towns and villages, they were elf-y. I mean, they were tree forts up in the trees, suspension bridges, that sort of thing. But they didn't have the air of majesty that legend would have. The trees were not grown to support the elven village. It was just a tree fort. The king is old. I mean, he's 1,000 years old or so. So he certainly has experience in the military, but he doesn't have a huge standing army anymore. So he has much experience. He's an older elf, so he's seen many things. But he does not seem like a military leader anymore. He seems more like a
Yeah.
small fading kingdom.
I mean, that's all that from Joey's perspective, that's all he was looking for. Like, clearly these elves did something that decimated gajillions of dragons, and then the dragons did the same and killed a whole bunch of elvish civilians. Like, these are both war crimes in Joey's brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get this elf guy to say, like, hey, we messed up and like slaughtered a whole bunch of dragons who probably didn't need to be slaughtered.
I wish there was another way we could have done it and still gotten, freedom or whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has the moral high ground because he's like, yeah, we were bad people, but we're trying to be better.
Okay. I can see it.
Yeah.
So, who do we talk to first?
I think we're talking to
The Elven King.
Melandrath.
Okay,
Yeah.
King Melandrak. You arrange to speak with the king. Pull him aside quietly. There's rooms for these sorts of conversations. And you sit down, and there's a big spinny wheel with a little clicker. To pick out of 1 to 100 numbers. But instead, you sort of sit him down. And you start talking, and my friends, I'm glad to see you again. I can't thank you enough for what you did for my people. The dragon raids have stopped, and life has resumed. We've lost many, but many have been saved as well. And he looks between you.
So, how about we work on saving even more people?
Well, of course, that's what we're here for.
You're a good king, wouldn't you say?
Well, I like to think I'm a great king.
You
And
understand.
he's just good.
You understand the responsibilities that you have to the people that you are a steward of. And I'm sure you know, you're a father. You raised a son that when people make mistakes and they harm each other, sometimes nobody was right. And somebody needs to be the bigger man and admit their half of the wrongs first. For the other side can put aside their pain and their pride.
Go on.
We're all very aware of how Protanther feels about elves. And I'm sure that makes you rather on the spot. You weren't responsible for what happened. And all of us who don't live forever, we understand that. We also don't have the luxury as mortal kind to hold eternal grudges. Going to our deathbed holding on to anger about things that really didn't make any sense in the first place. And Talise is kind of looking at Kuhloe right now.
No.
Having this moment looking at Kuhloe. Sometimes being a little humble is much less painful than being proud. And the bigger person should say I was wrong too. And I'm sorry.
Yes, they should. And if they do that, then I'm sure that the other person would also say that they were sorry, in this hypothetical situation.
In this hypothetical
Do we need to say excuse us one moment, sir? And do you guys have a moment?
And that other
Yeah.
person would say that they
And
understand
then
and
we could
accept
be like,
you.
see, be like them. Be like them.
They're having a time.
I'm sorry, I'm losing it.
I didn't expect this to come up right now. It's not a plan. It happened.
Kind of caught me off too. The king looks towards you, and he can see the interaction that's happening. Is like, I understand. We did what was necessary, and I've seen firsthand what a single dragon can do to my people. That green dragon wiped out generation. We are not quick to recover from such things. And I can't imagine what my ancestors must have felt seeing so many die to the dragon flights. But I do have a son, and I cannot imagine the pain I would feel if I were to ever turn against him. So, yes, I would like to be one up on that asshole of a gold dragon.
You know, that's very fair. That's
Uh,
fair.
and
Just don't
he's
phrase it like
he's
that.
like, though, I hope he doesn't hug me. And then
Stiff upper lip.
he stands up and he says, "Thank you again. You've done a great service to our kingdom and helped us out. I hope that my son can look to your friendship as I have. It was my intention some years ago to pass the crown to him, but it seemed ill-timed with the troubles that have been going on. But I look forward to our victory and passing the crown to him in a time of peace. And for that, I suppose I must go apologize to a dragon." And with that, the king heads off and has a conversation with Protanther. There's not as much teary-eye in hugging. It's a little more formal and stiff, but the two of them at least have the conversation. Now, that brings us to the close of our 4th day. On the 5th day, the council will make their decision. Currently, the only dragon who has not yet been swayed is Luthra. He's made a proposal, but he's kept this at an intellectual level. Do you wish to discuss the proposal of having a temple to Bahamut in any city that the Lord's Alliance has sway over, with more than 3
Yeah.
temples?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of us are on board with that. I mean, that's a very fair request.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean-
religious freedom.
I have no idea how many cities that actually is effectively.
lot.
Or like
It's
But, like-
the large ones. Most
Okay.
cities can't afford 3 temples. That's a lot. Usually, like a small town will have 1 polytheistic temple or just 1 dedicated to their patron.
Mhm.
3 is things like the big named one, Waterdeep, Neverwinter, etc., etc. So this shouldn't put too much of a burden on the people, but it does make an agreement. And Neverember and Lady Silverhand, as well as Nestra, come to speak with you. Like, well, we've heard the proposal. We didn't really budget for temple construction.
I mean, the dragons are loaded.
The
Yeah, you'll-
dragons are loaded, but they seem to think we should bear the burden of that. We've had a bit of a talk amongst ourselves, and this endeavor, the assault on the cult of the dragon, there will be treasures recovered. We'd like to discuss a more formal recovery fee. Our accounting on your last fee seemed a little generous. We were willing to overlook that. But this time, we don't think we can overlook it, especially with those temple expenses.
Okay.
Before you go on, friends,
Mhm.
I just want to gently remind you that right now the situation on this ship has swayed very heavily in the direction we all wanted to go. And that wasn't by your efforts. We put in a lot of time and energy and thought into making this happen. So if you're looking to charge fees, maybe we should start charging some too.
Well, we expect you to charge a fee, Lady Silverhand says. We just wish to negotiate that ahead of time. Our thought is each of us are bringing an army, the dragons, Waterdeep, Yatar, and so on. It seems like the last time a dragon horde was recovered, you each took a share. This time, we wish you to consider that your party shall receive a share equal to one of our armies. So rather than you taking 10 shares, and she counts the reported 10 of you, you would take one, we would take one, they would take one, and they would take one. And it sounds like there's probably going to be about a 6 to 7 way split of whatever's recovered. So you would take a much smaller percentage, but it'd still be potentially a lot of gold.
Aren't we all glad that I don't have that mask on?
Yep. Yep, that we are.
Chloe is growing impatient. Like, what does it matter? It's just money. This is not... Are we really down to this as our decision?
Oh, if it doesn't matter to you, I'm quite acceptable just taking all the share.
She's just kind of asking it out loud.
Don't worry, Chloe, I got this. So we're dividing any and all spoils exactly 10 ways. Is that what was 6 or 7? Sorry, my apologies.
So it sounds like it's going to be 1 per army that shows up. You don't know this, but there will actually be about 10 armies that show up because you have 2 or 3 in your pocket already. But they will consider each army a share and go that way. So the dragons will take 1 share, Waterdeep will take 1 share, your serpent friends will take 1 share, your party will take 1 share.
Yeah, Chloe is more than fine with that, and she'll turn to Talace, like, you can have my money, I don't care.
You do realize you need money to live.
I need money to kill that little wizard twerp and get my shit back, but other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, I feel ya. We'll make it happen.
And amongst yourselves, you realize that getting an army share is a gazillion.
It's a really good deal.
Huge amount of money.
Really good.
She's just playing it down a little bit.
Right. But they're also dealing with dragon greed in the next room, so it's like no. You don't get 1 per dragon, you get 1 for the dragons.
Chloe would want to just, like, kind of in our, like, huddle powwow, look at Ruqiyo and just say, where does this land us with your tower? Because if everybody gets a share, they shouldn't need your frickin' tower. You kind of, are we all agreed that they're not going to get that, or have we come to a decision on that? Did I miss that?
I think we've been putting it on the back burner.
That's on the back burner. I will need a decision on that one before we get off the boat. Or Rianne will assume that you have the decision is no, which is fine. But effectively, if you say yes, that's another army that shows up that doesn't take a share because they're already paid.
You really should ask for more money if you do it.
I was gonna say, I hate, it's just a niggling little thing, but someone pointed out that they're not the most up and up group.
What?
It would also mean that, authorities and stuff wouldn't be able to get to them if needed.
Yeah.
And, I'm not a real goody two-shoes, but I am having some moral quandaries about giving the mafia and, an, unassailable hideout.
Yeah. We could always tell them. We could always write down the key. I mean,
you don't have to call them mafia. Like Yakuza would be fine. There's lots of other words if you're uncomfortable with the word mafia.
Only if they have a key view with them.
Better.
So that's the 2 decisions left to the party. And as we roll into day 5, what are the decisions of the party on that?
Well, we've agreed to the money shares.
Okay, money shares are good. So you have earned the votes necessary. The council agrees. And Rianne just sort of, as everyone's getting ready to wrap things up and pack up, and drinks are happening, and it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. The important discussions are out of the way. Of course, there's a little more strategizing and talk, but it's several weeks out of travel, so things will change. So the plans are sort of nebulous based on the results of the next few weeks. But Rianne's still so about our arrangement.
I need a moral compass. Valandra?
I'm so glad you didn't say my name. I am not the one to ask for a moral compass.
I kind of want to say no. Really, the tower is not really that big of a thing, and I would be totally willing to use it as collateral or whatever, a bargaining chip, and releasing a small, platoon of assassins is really cool. But I'm like, what are they gonna do with it?
Kill a lot of people, save a lot of friendly lives.
Well, I mean, after that,
Oh, you don't need to worry about that.
All of those consequences
I
that
think I
can indirectly
do.
be traced back to me, and, even if I didn't do it myself, I might
no.
have some,
Oh,
moral
no.
karmic responsibility.
Don't be silly. Nothing we do is traceable.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that
god.
makes me feel better. Sorry.
This is a
Mord
world where
just kinda
gods
looks
actually
over.
exist.
Mord just kind of looks over and says, "Ain't you a divination wizard? Can't you, I don't know, tell the future or something and see what happens?"
I can!
I was just like, duh!
I'll need a
you can
moment.
certainly-
I need a closet, and I need to re-prepare spells, and I also need some legend lore.
Okay.
Oh, that only goes backwards.
So you dive in
Yeah,
the closet,
that's-
you start casting. Eldath picks up no, this is another business question. Hang on a second. And
I love that you're getting connected to other deities. Amazing.
just and days have gone by and lots of long rests, so you've had plenty of time to rememorize it. So, what is the ploy?
What is
What was that?
I'm just repeating it back, seeing if there's real meaning to that. Yeah, I can't read the future.
I mean, Joey would probably talk to Ruqiyo at this point and be like, "Listen, if somebody offered me 25,000 gold and an army to take my sword, I'd tell him to fuck off, because it's one and near and dear to me. Is that tower going to be something like that to you?"
Time to explore it before I can know that. It's like only having
And there's
seen
the
the
fact
sword
of
on
the
the wall.
investitures in what's in the tower going against that 25,000 gold, and also we'll lose all of those people from that town in our relatively standing army.
Yeah. What about those people? What's gonna happen when the Yakuza move in?
Yeah, this
Protection.
is
How about we
that's
just keep
real
the tower?
Yeah.
Just Dusk very confused from the background.
you might
It's like, why don't we just keep it? I don't get it.
Okay, here's my question. Do we need that? Yes, every army is an army that we didn't otherwise have doing amazing stuff. But, do you guys think that it's a better idea to say thanks but no thanks? Or just say, double that and we've got, we can talk about a rent-to-own sort of thing?
If we get that army on our side, they're still gonna get a share of the friggin' dragon horde. Is that not
they won't.
sizable enough?
No, if we give them
Do
the
they
tower,
not?
they won't. But it doesn't
Right.
matter.
We'll be prepaying them.
That's
This would be a silent. This is your own personal army. This is you say go kill this, they're gonna go kill this, and they're just gonna disappear, and you get all the credit.
no, we don't want that. I mean, they're gonna
I
do what
think
they do. You should keep it. You don't want to give a leg up to
Okay.
the next bad guy in the next novel that we're not going to do.
Exactly.
It's
Like,
yeah.
I've got a bad feeling about it.
All right.
Trust your gut. You're
So-
with a family that's done that from the start, and we're here now.
I'm all right. Cool. Everyone's behind me. I'm gonna be
we
very
don't-
polite.
We don't
turn her
support
down.
evil to try and
And
defeat
you will not be
evil.
turning her down alone. You'll be
Except
going
Dawn.
with Talais and Valandra at the.
Sounds good. So Rianne stops by for your answer. It sounds like that's a no. Well, I appreciate you giving it the consideration. No hard feelings. If you change your
Cool.
mind later, let us know, obviously. If you need someone else killed, it'll depend on who. But keep the options open. And she
Do I
gives you
get
a
her
little.
card?
I hear you trying to tempt me there, Kasey. I hear you. I
What?
hear it in your
I
voice.
get her card.
So yes, she gives you her card, which is basically just the reputable business person's league, and you know that she's an advisor in Waterdeep. She is a quasi-political figure, though nobody mentions who she represents. So you can definitely get hold of her if ever needed. So as the boat pulls into Waterdeep and everyone starts disembarking, they sort of start talking about the next couple of plans. And the problem of the moment, after they get caught up with the news, is that several fleets that have been attempting to bring armies across to Waterdeep have been prevented from doing so by some obviously unnatural weather. Storms that sit in place for days and days. Tides so high or so low that ships cannot dock, armies cannot board, and so on. And many of these armies are the folks that were recruited with Chloe's efforts. So they are ready and raring to go, but they just can't get here. Divination and other investigation reveals that storm giants may be at play. You've heard of the trouble with the fire giants waylaying some of the armies traveling across land, and storm giants, it seems, troubling those at sea. This seems the more dire concern, as the armies traveling across land can divert and can split, leaving a few behind to occupy the fire giants, but the storm giants can occupy an entire navy with their magics. A small island is identified as the most likely base, and a ship has been noted as passing through the storms unimpeded. Rumor indicates that it has signs on it indicating it may be related to the cult. Coloration and style, nothing blatant, of course, but people have started to key in on certain things. Casper looks about, says, "We can do it. My boat can handle it. I've got oars aplenty. Storms won't bother me. We're nice and low. We'll get tossed about a bit, but we'll stay afloat, and my crew will never tire. I can get you there if you wish." Will you take Casper up on his offer of a ride to the island where storm giants, it seems, are setting storms against the Navy? Or would you prefer to move against the fire giants waylaying the army crossing the land? It would reduce the number but increase the speed at which the armies could be deployed. Or is there something else that you'd all like to do? And that's kind of where we'll start wrapping it up towards next week. But if you can talk amongst yourself for a few minutes and just let me know which way you'd like to go.
But are the dragons staying with us if we are on the ship, or are they disembarking?
The dragons are disembarking. Basically be you and Casper's crew to head out. The dragons will be spreading the news. the nobles will be doing the same, and a lot of teleportation magic is about to happen. They're also taking that big magical door off. You're, of course, getting a chance to unload your gear. So the only magics left on the boat will be its invisibility to divination spells and its unceasing power supply.
Cool. When before Nimura takes off, Talace definitely is going to be like, "Hey, we should hang out. You're amazing."
Okay, seriously, why can't I do that?
What?
You can. just stand next to her when she's doing it. She'll be like, "You should hang out."
So I like Talace, like, we should hang out and yeah, no. Yep. And Nimura's like, absolutely. Say 3 weeks in battle?
I mean, that'll be cool. When we survive it and win, after that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we gotta divvy up the treasure. I'll buy something nice.
Ooh, yes. That'd be great. Let's go shopping.
That is the best part of winning, is shopping in the Horde.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah,
Kasey,
no problem.
of those two options, the Storm Giants is that most of the armies that Kuhloe was trying to recruit?
So Kuhloe did a tour of the islands, got a lot of recruits out of the islands, and basically everyone on the islands is being stopped. They can't cross the ocean. They would need a strike team to take out these giants that are causing trouble. Once those giants are taken care of, then the Navy can progress. That the rest of the folks that Kuhloe was doing, most of them have joined up with the Lord's Alliance and are making their way through, but fire giants, hill giants, and other giants are causing trouble. So it seems like a lot of giant trouble is starting to spring up. You could either strike at the fire giants, which would give much more mobility on land, but you would lose all the armies at sea.
Yeah.
Or you could take care of the ocean problem, which would get you more people on the ground. Some of those people might have some trouble moving about because of the fire giant raids.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the others will get there just slower, and these guys, if we don't help them, won't get there at all. So Kuhloe will probably throw her weight behind that.
Yeah. Now, if you had your own personal band of assassins, you could just be like, "Hey, assassins, go take care of it."
We're not giving you the tower, Kasey.
Somebody was like, "I want the tower," and
you can't has.
They poke their head back in. No, go away.
Brienne's like,
told you no.
I'm only a shadow away. So it sounds like then we'll be going.
Business card.
Shady business started. So the party can anticipate a ocean travel. Casper is very confident in his vessel, and you've been on it for a while now. It is over engineered and over magicked. You think it would have a really hard time sinking, even in a really hellish storm. Though poker chips would be flying everywhere. So some ocean travel, and then combat on a small atoll or island, something along those lines. And the intended enemies are reported to be storm giants and possibly cultists. So that's kind of the information you have to work with. Of course, you'll have time for a long rest, so respec as necessary. And then we'll pick up next week, 7 o'clock Eastern, and run from there. So thanks everybody for playing. Thanks everybody on Twitch. Like, follow, and obey, and such things. We're picking up next Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. I've lost track of the schedule. Sin, help.
It's okay. There's Friday stuff and Saturday stuff. Friday is Yulia. Saturday is Athy's game. Sunday is nothing yet. Wednesdays are Connor's game. Ooh. And Tuesday, I think, is the actual final, no takesy backsies, hot conclusion to the Adventure League that Kyle was stretching out. It was a one-shot. Classically, a 3-shot.
So, hey, the one-shot one-shotted.
That is how one
That's
shots work.
how it goes.
Mhm.
Awesome. So just before we sign off, just real quick feedback. How did everybody like the social game?
Oh, I loved it.
That was so fun.
Okay.
I've been
I
hoping
love
something like
that.
I was hoping something like this would come along forever.
I was a little nervous that we wouldn't be able to cram all the personalities in, but I feel like I got participation from everybody. I don't think I didn't hear silence. So cool. Thanks everybody for taking the time to watch and play. I had a lot of fun.
Thank
Sin,
you.
you can hit the button so I stop talking anytime now.